Hello and welcome to Game Theory. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Bryce Simon is with me. We're back in our normal locations. Bryce in Kansas. I am back in Australia. Today, we're going to break down all of the rookies that we saw while out in Las Vegas at the 2024 NBA Summer League. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What's this gonna be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? I am so happy to be home. Right after we went to Vegas, I get back. I coach high school football, as many people know. This was our team camp this past week. So we leave the day after I get back to go to our team camp, which is like a 5-hour drive. Straight up, Sam, like we're living in the dorms like we're college students. We have to bring our own bedding, shower, like all of that stuff. And so had to make that drive. I love my kids. I love coaching football. Like I had a blast, but I was just so ready to be home Friday night. So I've had the weekend home with the family and can get back into this routine. And can't think of anything better than doing a podcast with you, talking about Summer League rookie performances.
It's fantastic. I couldn't be more excited to talk about this. Really, we have to talk about the big news of the day, though, to start. Sam Hauser has signed a 4-year, $45 million extension with the Boston Celtics.
Floor spacers get paid, Sam.
Floor spacers get paid. That's a great way to put it.
Can we put that on a shirt? Didn't Kawhi get a shirt whenever he said board man gets paid or whatever? Floor spacers get paid should be the 2024 version of that. Somebody make a shirt and make a lot of money. Yeah, if we were to talk about the other big news.
What are you talking about? Someone? Us? We should do that.
Well, yeah, sure. Let's do it. I don't know how to make a shirt. So like, let's make a website. Let's do it. Yeah, I mean, he spaces the floor. He competes defensively. Neither one of us are going to sit here, I don't think, and like consider him a big time defender. Or I don't even know if he's neutral, but he competes. He's insulated on that team. Think he's great value. I'm just fascinated to see how this whole thing plays out, Sam, because this is a team that's their majority owners trying to sell the team. They're on the books for an insane amount of money moving forward. I'm just fascinated to see how this plays out in terms of who buys the team. Are they okay with all this money on the books? Does it change the valuation? They don't own their arena, correct? So like, I'm really interested to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, like my read on it is they'll run this back this year, right? Yeah. And then after that, we'll probably see like Peyton Pritchard go to make up for this deal. We'll probably see, Al Horford might retire after this year. That's, between him and Peyton, that'd be 16 million off the books. It would account for a good portion of this deal and then maybe a little bit more of Derek White's deal, right? So the thing is, it's just going to be repeater and it's going to be really hard. And as we see with the way that things are going right now across the NBA, teams are terrified of the repeater tax. They're terrified of the second apron. We're really, in an era of parity. So I think that the biggest thing that I have kind of garnered from talking to people across the NBA is almost like the NFLification of the NBA is what's occurring with this new CBA, where it's going to be harder, I think, to build a long-term dynasty. The teams that have these like unbelievable superstar level players are going to certainly have advantages in terms of team building. But at the end of the day, parity is going to reign supreme. It's not that players are going to make less money. Their 51% is still going to be right there in terms of the basketball related income split. But I think that it's going to be harder for teams like the Warriors, the Suns, etc. The Suns have been very clear. They're going to try and go all in for these 2 years and then try to avoid the tax. Matt Ishbia said that on Pat McAfee's show. So they'll try and get out of the second apron after this. But I think that it's just clear that, the Celtics see a, 2 to 3 year window here. They're going to go all in to try and get this 2 to 3 year window with as many titles as they can, including this year's, and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, why would you not bring this team back whenever they just dominated the league the way they did? So, you have the ability to do so if you're willing to pay what it takes to pay it, and that's what they're going to do. And I think he's a very important part of this. So good for Hauser to get paid, and
Yeah.
he deserves this.
The last thing I will say is that I'm kind of wondering. Obviously, there's like a crazy amount of money out there in terms of foreign income, right? You know, money from Saudi Arabia, money from Russia that is involved in, soccer, certainly, across the world, certainly the PGA Tour, is considered taking some money. Live ended up splitting off because the PGA Tour was hesitant to take that money. Those are the kinds of funds and owners that could enter the NBA that could end up upsetting this and changing things in a real tangible way and just decide, hey, fuck it, we're going all in. We're going to just pay whatever the money is. We don't care. We have basically unlimited funds. I will be interested to see if the NBA is interested in getting those people involved. And I will be interested to see if other owners across the league will want to get those people involved, if only because right now, this is the CBA that they decided to implement, and they probably feel pretty comfortable in terms of the parity that this league is going to have over the next few years. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have done it. It's going to be really interesting to see how the NBA kind of handles its ownership situation in the coming years and whether or not they're going to be able to kind of continue with that influx of money, or if we just continue to go like parity driven at the end of the day.
Let me ask you, do you think, switching to the CBA, do you think we see any amendments to the CBA over the next 7 years or whatever? Do you think this is what, because people talk about the first apron, and people, I think I heard the other day that maybe the hard caps at the different aprons and those type of things are things that maybe they didn't consider enough. They didn't realize we're going to be this, I don't want to say detrimental. That's a little too tough of a word, but it's not something that's never happened. Now, like the COVID thing was extreme extenuating circumstances, but it is possible. It is something that they could do. I don't necessarily know the process. Do you think we see one or two things get moved where, okay, this may not hard cap you, or you can do 110% before it hard cap? Do you think there's anything, you talk to NBA teams way more than I do, is there any conversation of what that one thing is in the new CBA that people are like, man, this is really, really hamstringing us or holding us back?
Oh, I mean, across the league, it's the second apron stuff for sure. Like that's the thing that people are adjusting to most. I think that people are using it more as a crutch to not have to pay their players and not have to expend more money. But yeah, no, like I think that that's what this is. It is I think it's the second apron, undeniably. In terms of any like amendments, adjustments, no, I don't see that forthcoming. I don't think that that will be a thing that we see much of in this CBA. Maybe on the minor side, like if they wanted to implement like a third round of the NBA draft or something like that, that really doesn't impact the overall state of the league, but realistically could, be a financial winner for broadcast networks and things like that. Maybe, but I don't see it as a thing where we're going to get like substantial adjustments to the actual competitive balance of the league based on adjustments within the CBA.
Gotcha. I was just curious. Like I said, it seems like it's a topic of conversation, and I agree with you. It seems like it's the excuse ownership just not wanting to pay beyond the second apron, and it's a really easy excuse to say, hey, look at all these things that would hamstring our team building if we went above it. So I wondered, I know it's not something that happens a lot, and especially we're just year one into this thing. I assume in the next couple of years, we see teams figure out, I don't want to say they figure out ways around it. They probably would have already done that, but they figure out ways to navigate it. And we don't hear as much like, oh, they can't do this because of that or the new CBA. So I was curious.
Okay. So Sam Hauser, this kind of led into a wilder conversation than what I was expecting, but shout out Sam Hauser. Sam Hauser, the guy that changed the NBA. with this new extension that we talked about.
Love it.
I'm excited about this for Sam Hauser. I think it's a good deal. He's worth $10 million. He's worth less than what the minimum, the mid-level exception is at the end of the day. Like, this is a good deal. I understand why he'd want to lock it in. I think that's the easiest way for him to make sure that he makes money across the rest of his career, is to lock in now and confirm that he's going to be able to make 45 million in his career.
Do you think do you think a floor spacer like that gets more? Like, do you think he gets more than that if he would have hit the open market? I realize you get a chance to lock in your money. You don't have to worry about what happens this next season, potential injury, anything like that. Do you think he gets, like, he would get the MLE on the open market? Don't you think?
I think he would. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he would. It's just like, it's weird because they're, trying to look through who's going to have salary cap space.
Yeah.
I don't know how many teams are going to be looking for like a Sam Hauser type, is what makes it a little bit difficult. But yeah, I think locking in now is the right move. Don't fuck around with injuries. Don't play games. Like, make sure and get your money if you're him. This is obviously different than Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson just did, the same thing and locked in. Look, do I think Sam Hauser could have gotten like a 4-year, $75 to $70 million deal? No. Maybe it's possible. There are a lot of like really good, solid teams that could use, like, once the mid-level keeps rising up. Yeah, I guess that, I don't know. If I was him, I'd just want to lock in money. I haven't made a crazy amount of money yet. I don't know how I look outside of the Boston situation, although shooter who can, at least hold up defensively is valued everywhere. I would just want to make sure I get my 50 million, I think, is where I'm at.
No, and that's what, like, I was just wondering, like, looking at this year, I was trying to figure out who the player is that he compares to in terms of the value and what those guys got. And I wonder if that deal's actually out there. There were guys who I thought would have got bigger deals. Like, I thought Derrick Jones Jr. was going to get a contract where I would have been like, man, that's maybe getting a little overpaid for being a starter on an NBA Finals. And whenever his contract came in, I was like, oh, that's an awesome deal for the Clippers. 3 for 30. Like, I probably would have guessed he was going to get an MLE type deal, and he came in below that, and it's going to continue to be below that as the MLE goes up. So that's where I wonder if sometimes I think a specialist like Hauser goes on the market and we value shooting so much, but then actually they don't even get the contract and the offers I would have guessed they would have. Like Gary Trent Jr.'s playing on the minimum this year.
Yep.
And I'm not
Buddy Hield got less than
Buddy
this.
Hield,
Buddy Hield got 436, I think, with like a bunch of options and things in there.
Yeah, that's not even a fully guaranteed contract, right? So like there's something different, like, I'm not comparing all of these guys as the same type of players. I wonder if this wasn't, I don't want to say it's the best deal he could have got, but it may be closer than what I would have thought initially if he had gone to unrestricted free agency. So
Simone Fontecchio, I think, got a little bit less than this.
He got less than I thought. Yeah, he got 2 for 16. I thought it was going to take more than that to get Fontecchio. Like, seeing that, I'm surprised the team didn't force Detroit's hands a little bit more as a restricted free agent. So
yeah, the shooters did not get paid in this market this year. They're incredibly important.
Cancel
the shirts. Shooters got a little bit of money. They did not get a crazy amount of money this cycle, which is interesting to me. It's very, very interesting. We'll see what it looks like now. I'm glad Hauser got some money. I think that basically any of these deals that were signed this year are going to look good. That's been my take the whole way. Any contract that was signed this year, as the salary cap is going to keep rising and rising, like everyone fucking melted down about that Franz Wagner thing. We talked about it. With the salary cap rising and rising and rising, this thing is just going to keep getting better and better and better. It's going to take up a less percentage of the cap. I think it's like 22% of the cap in 2027, 28 for Wagner, who, if you think he's a all-star long-term like I do, like, yes, this is exactly what you want. Okay. Let's get into rookies. I have an order of operations here that I want to go through.
I'm glad you do, because it's like we could be all over the place on this with all the different options.
Yeah. So we're going to definitely talk about all of the rookies taken. I would say at least in the top 11 or 12.
Okay.
Really 11, because 12 was Topic and Topic didn't play. And then we'll kind of jump around. Like, we're going to have to talk about Jaylon Tyson, right? We're going to have to talk about Bronny. Sorry to everybody. We definitely want to talk about Kel'el Ware and Bob Carrington.
Yes.
Like, we're going to jump around a little bit, but we'll definitely talk about all the top 11 and then maybe just kind of bounce around a little bit is kind of the plan. So do you want to go in order that they were picked, or
I would like to do that. That helps my OCD. Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here for it. Let's start here. But before we do that, Bryce, we've got a real quick ad read here from Mando. If you're just getting home from Las Vegas for Summer League, you know, like I do, that it was incredibly hot. It was ridiculous in Las Vegas. There's no other way to put this thing. The sun was out, humidity was up, days were long. Thanks to our friends at Mando, though, I was smelling fresh the entire time. Mando's whole body deodorant will be your best friend this summer. It's clinically proven to control odor for 72 hours. Mando's safe for your entire body. Pits, package, feet, everywhere in between. It stops odor before it starts. It is proudly American made. The starter pack is a game changer, including a stick deodorant, a cleansing bar or cream. Body wash and disposable wipes are also available. Plus, it comes in 4 cologne quality scents: bourbon leather, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, and Clover Woods. Personally, that bourbon leather is good for those summer nights when you're going out. Whether it's hiking, volleyball, beach days, running, golfing, camping, Mando is going to keep you smelling fresh no matter what. Hey, it's going to help you reduce chafing if you're going on those long, 27 hole days. If you're golfing, you gotta use Mando. Get $5 off your starter pack. That's 40% off with promo code Game Theory, GAMETHEORY, at shopmando.com. It's perfect for staying fresh from the shower to anywhere you go. Again, that's 40% off the starter pack with our exclusive code Game Theory. Head to shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com and use that code Game Theory. Okay. Bryce, let's start with Zaccharie Risacher.
Yep.
Risacher at Summer League. Trying to find his stats, but it looks like they don't have them. Oh, there we go. As always, Bryce.
14.5 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, 1 turnover on 39% on 14 attempts, 25% from 3 on 8 attempts, 43% from the free throw line. I laughed just because I'm like, I don't think that's going to hold true throughout the season on 3.5 attempts.
So I think that the easiest way for me to explain Risacher, so he played 2 games, right? So this is not...
Let me give that 2 games. And just so this is off Real GM, that's the easiest place I find Summer League stats at this point. And so if the stats aren't right, blame them, but that's where I go. But yeah, 2 games, that's an important caveat with him.
I did not like it when Risacher went into seemingly that first game and tried to prove that he could be a shot creator. That was where a lot of his problems for me started in terms of the inefficiency. Just did not really separate from his man at all, did not showcase that ability off the bounce, did not really showcase a ton in those ways. Where I thought he was impressive was when he was playing off the catch and was playing off of his teammates and was just within the flow of the offense. I thought he looked way better. And you could see the vision for how he would look impressive in the Atlanta situation from day one, with Trae Young being there to create basically all of the shots that need to be created there for the Atlanta Hawks. I would think that Risacher is going to be able to come in next to Jalen Johnson at times, whether or not he starts, who knows, right? But I would think he'll be able to come in next to Jalen Johnson and be able to play a really solid role off the catch and playing just really, really kind of really smart basketball is the easiest way to put it. I liked him when he was getting out in transition, taking advantage of easy opportunities that came that way. I thought that he was impressive, just catch and shoot threes, right? Like just catch them and bang them every time, right? Like that's it. Attacking closeouts, like within the flow, I thought he was there. It was just any of the shot creation, I thought just looked really, really rough.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it bothers me as much as you in terms of I'm okay with it being in summer league, him trying those things. And there's part of it I'm
No,
glad he
totally.
did. You know what I mean? And I don't think you're like, oh my gosh, this isn't the guy we thought it was. And especially if it wasn't, hey, I'm trying to
Oh
prove that
no,
I'm go ahead.
Bryce, I would say it's exactly the guy that we thought it was.
No.
frankly.
Yeah. No, he was. And I agree. I liked seeing him try it because for him to exceed those expectations and look anything close to what a quote unquote number one pick looks like, he has to be able to do some of those things. But we saw that it was not effective. That's not in his bag right now. And I'm okay with that in summer league, as long as that's exactly what it was, where he went out there or they told him, hey, Zach, try some of these things. You can be a little bit, you can take some liberties with the ball in your hand. Let's see how it looks. Maybe it's good for him to see it. Like maybe the Hawks were like, sure, go try it. And you'll see what you're ready for right now and what you're not. If it was him trying to prove he was the number one pick, I don't like it in that context as much. And only they know the answer to that. But it was good to see him be good in these other things that we thought he would be coming into the draft, which is play in the corner. And this is what he was asked to do with Borg a lot, right? Was play in the corner, catch and shoot, cut off of those things, get out in transition. He averaged 1.5 offensive rebounds per game in under 30 minutes. I like that number. I think that's a place he could really provide value. For me, in this rookie season for Risacher, I want to see him knock down open catch and shoot, cut, offensive rebound, and then be good defensively. I will hold him. I don't want to say like it doesn't matter what my standard is, I guess, but I'll have a standard for him defensively because I thought he'd be able to come in and be a quality team defender and provide value in that way. So I'm really interested to see, because we know rookies do struggle in general on the defensive end, but he's a guy who I think plays the game the right way. And so I do have expectations for him to be, you know, solid or good for a rookie on that end of the floor. I don't think, and I don't know that you probably, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I don't think he's going to shoot 25% from three during the regular season because the shot diet of those attempts are probably going to be different.
The shot diet will be different. I will say he was a streaky shooter this year. Like that's the thing.
He
like
went through the
ultimately,
whole 3-4 week stretch, right? Where he shot really bad.
Oh, it was a couple months where he shot like 29 or so from three, but I'm really glad you brought up the shot diet. Ultimately, that's the big thing here. Like I wouldn't take anything away from the fact that he shot like 29% from three or whatever at summer league, 25 from three. To me, he was taking like off the dribble, tough shots that like he just won't be asked to take early in his career. The fact that he looked good within the flow is what I will take away from this. We'll see what he looks like next year at summer league. Like maybe he does have like Brandon Miller, for all the shit that Brandon Miller got in summer league last year because he didn't perform efficiently is maybe the way to put it, right? I thought Brandon Miller like showcased way more flexibility and creativity off the bounce, which is ultimately what Risacher, like we know, doesn't have. Yeah. And Brandon Miller has kind of missed shots. He went to Charlotte this year, was excellent as a rookie and was good at creating shots, was great as a shooter. I think Brandon's a little bit better of a shooter. I trust him a little bit more getting to his spots than what I trust Risacher. Very different players, very different level prospects to me. Like Charlotte should be like building around Brandon Miller at this point.
Yeah.
Risacher is like a cog within what Atlanta is building. And I think that's the easiest way to explain it. And we'll see where it goes moving forward.
So based on this conversation we've just had, strictly talking about his rookie season success and looking good, do you feel like him being on the floor with Trae Young a lot is imperative for that? Because if you put him on the floor, let's say in a second unit where there's not that level of a creator, is he going to be asked to do too much in those situations or not get those looks created for him? Like, I'm just sitting here going like, man, I really feel like his best basketball may actually be on the floor, and that doesn't have to be starting. It can just be, he subs in and plays his 6-minute stretch with Trey. I just find myself going, I think Trey is going to be the guy that unlocks him the most offensively because he's the one that can generate the type of looks that we're talking about.
Yeah, agree. I think that's right. Like I would want, and honestly, like that might be a case for Risacher starting.
Sure.
Is trying to pair his minutes a little bit more with Trey. But like I think this team has some hope that they can compete and contend in some way, shape, or form.
Maybe that changes it. Yeah.
But we'll see what Atlanta decides to do, right? That's ultimately an open question. Like how much are they going to try and I think they're going to try and make the play in at least for sure. And just kind of looking at the roster, obviously they have Trey, they still have Bogdan, still have DeAndre Hunter on this roster, still have Larry Nance and Dyson Daniels, who they just acquired.
All the centers.
Yeah, all of the centers. Again, this to me looks like a roster where we don't know what it's going to look like on opening night. I would think that there will be some sort of movement there, but I don't know that I have like a great answer. To me, the easiest thing I can come up with is there a world where New Orleans could move off of some longer term salary to get Clint Capella for this year?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then they can sign Trey Murphy. Maybe it's Brandon Miller, like using the Clint Capella deal as something. I'm not totally sure.
A couple other things with the Hawks real quick. Nikola Jurisic, obviously fractured hand, I believe. Hand or foot?
I thought it was foot, but maybe I'm wrong.
Sorry. No,
I'll look.
I'm probably wrong there, but he
Foot.
got injured.
Yeah, foot.
No, my bad. Wrong. Yeah. But obviously out for a little while. So I don't think it should, I don't want to assume here, but we assume not season ending injury type of thing. Hopefully he'll be back and we can still see him in his rookie season. And then also it kind of stunk not seeing Kobe Buffkin. Kobe Buffkin is a guy I really like. I'm a big fan of. I think with the trade of DeJounte, I know we're not talking about rookies. My bad. Next episode. Sorry.
Sophomores are next episode,
My
guys.
bad.
So
sorry,
the way that
sorry.
The way that we're going to roll through this, we're going to talk rookies on this episode, sophomores next episode. And then honestly, like the next episode might be like the interesting vets that we kind of saw
my bad
across summer league. Okay. But worth noting nonetheless about not having Kobe Buffkin there, because Kobe Buffkin is another guy that could play off the bench, that could, blossom into a creator that could help Risacher try to develop and grow into something a little bit different.
Yep.
Regardless, with where Atlanta's at, I think we just have no idea what this roster is going to look like on opening night. I still think they're ripe for a trade. Maybe, as the offseason kind of gets moving here again, maybe Brandon Ingram moves and they're involved in that in some way. Maybe Larry Markkinen moves, they're involved in that in some way as a third team. Like you just never know how these things could work out.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go to Washington. Alex Sarr at number 2, and we'll do all of the kind of Washington guys within this, or at least Bub and Kyshawn, I guess, too. Alex Sarr got a lot of publicity, let's go with, for the way he played at Summer League, insofar as it was not, I would say, not wildly successful, right?
Yeah, agreed.
From a statistical perspective, in the 4 games he's played, 30 minutes a night, averaged 5.5 points on 19% from the field, 11% from 3, 50% from the free throw line. Did average 7.8 rebounds, 3.3 assists, 2.3 turnovers, and 2.5 blocks and a steal. So here's where I want to go. I think at everything other than scoring the basketball, Alex Sarr was quite good. I want to say that. At everything outside of scoring the ball. Defensively, I loved what Alex Sarr brought. They played him in drop a lot. They occasionally switched him at times. Like he was every bit the versatile impact defender that Washington thought it was drafting. Additionally, I thought his passing really popped.
I'm glad you said it, because I was like, am I just trying to make this feel good because the scoring's so bad? I thought he passed the ball really well.
Yeah, I thought he passed the ball incredibly well, and it stood out in comparison to other bigs that were there to score and not pass the ball. I thought he read the court incredibly well. his scoring was a fucking catastrophe. We just need to say it up front, right? Like if we're going to give him credit for everything else, and I think he deserves credit for the way he played across the board, right? I think he really deserves more credit than what he's going to get because he really played hard on defense. He was a great rim protector. Everything that you could want there, that was real. I don't know how, and this was the question coming into the draft, and it continues to be a question. I don't know what his role is on offense. I continue not to know what his role is on offense as a overall player, because he was way too happy just to like pick and pop or like softly roll to the rim, which is something we talked about pre-draft with him. He took a ton of those like terrible pull-up mid-range jumpers that Perth had like completely excised from his game. Like he would like catch the ball in the mid-post, dribble, and like take like a turnaround fadeaway, right? It was really, really what you don't want to see from your center prospect. If you want to see him explore the space a little bit, which I'm sure Washington told him to do, sure, fine. But man, he just was way too averse to contact, I think was my thing. He needs to be willing to take bumps and needs to be willing to go and roll hard into the interior is where I'm at.
We talked about this, and the absolute floor for him offensively was showcased in Summer League, and we knew it was there. And that's why, like, I don't want to say I've changed my thoughts on him, because we knew this floor was there. If he didn't shoot it well, which he didn't at Summer League, he doesn't do the quote unquote big guy things well enough to then still be a positive, because he doesn't catch lobs. He doesn't, like Kel'el Ware, and I don't want to I don't want to bring him up now because he deserves his own say. Ware didn't necessarily crush from the 3-point line, but he did all the big things well. He play finished and offensive rebound finish and caught lobs. Sarr doesn't do those things, Sam.
And one thing I will say with Kel'el had the benefit of playing with Isaiah Stevens, a 23-year-old point guard who was one of the best passers at Summer League that we saw, whereas Sarr was playing with Bub Carrington, a guy that went in the lottery and we're all really excited about. We're going to talk about Bub here in a second and what we loved about him. But one of the things that I saw with Bub was that I thought his decision-making on passes was like a split second late. As an 18-year-old playing Summer League, that's not a surprise. I thought he was just a touch late in almost everything that he did at Summer League and as a passer, and that's okay. But I think that probably did hinder Alex a little bit as a scorer overall.
I think that's fair, but I think we both have concerns about this with Alex.
Oh, 100%.
In terms of
no. We're not putting it at Bub's feet. This is on Alex. Like Alex took a lot of really shitty shots and also needs to be willing to go in and take bumps and be willing to play through contact.
Yeah, and listen, I was as high as anybody on Alex Sarr. He was my number one prospect. I've said I thought the Hawks should have taken, but this is the worry. And I'm not saying everybody should freak out over 4 Summer League games that he played, but the worry is, what if he doesn't shoot and he doesn't do the big guy? Here's the most concerning stat to me, because I think shooting variability, especially over 4 games, is like, we can't overrate. The fact he had 3.5 offensive rebounds per game, Sam, is awesome. That's a really good number in my opinion. How do you only average 5.5 points and shoot 12% from the field, 19% from the field, when you get 3.5 offensive rebounds per game? To me, that means he's not getting it and scoring it for some reason. My hope is that it's physicality, because like he can improve that physicality just a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's where it's going to have to come from. And look, like he's still a teenager. He needs to get stronger. He needs to get more physical. He needs to be willing to like be able to play through that, like, the bumps and the contact he's going to get. That will come as he gets older, just naturally, I think, on some level. But it's starting in a concerning place. And look, like, I don't think he's gonna start for them early on. Like, I've seen people do like projected Wizard starting lineups, like Kyle Kuzma's gonna start for them. Like, he's gonna start at the 4. Jonas is gonna start at the 5. They're gonna start Bilal over Alex Sarr because Bilal has been there for a year, right? Maybe they start Corey Kispert or something, right? Maybe it's Kispert and a 2 guard. Maybe it's Bilal and Kispert. Maybe it's, whoever, whatever you want to go down the road of, right? Maybe you start Jordan Poole. Who the hell knows? But I think that they're going to, in all likelihood, bring Sarr along slowly because the offense is going to take a minute at this point. The offense is just going to take a good amount of time for him to figure out.
Yeah, it really is. Again, though, the defensive stuff was there. I liked seeing the offensive rebounding. The defense, like, what I don't like with the rebounding is he averaged almost about the same number of defensive rebounds. This was another concern we had through the pre-draft process with him. So
totally,
I think what's interesting here, just like we said with Zach, though, was he kind of was what we thought. The things he did well at Summer League. The things we were concerned about him being able to do, he didn't do well. Sarr, I think, was amplified a little bit, Sam, because the things we were concerned about really didn't look good. And the things to make up for them, which if he would have shot 40% from 3 or 35% from 3, I think we would have felt a little bit better about this. So the fact he couldn't find any way to score at all really made it look even worse. It really put amplified the issues with him.
The extremes.
In terms of doing, extremes of how bad it could be.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's go to Bub. I kind of mentioned what my main concern with Bub was in terms of his just like being, it felt like it kind of closed a little bit late for, like, everything closed quickly for him. If he was trying to throw like those cross corner kickouts that we saw him throw at Pitt throughout the course of the season, the window was just closing a little bit before he was used to it closing. And thus we kind of saw him then get like a little bit, thrown off, and he decided not to throw the pass more often than try to explore throwing the pass. Right. That was kind of my main thing. Like, we saw him kind of try and just take pull-ups at the end of the day, because that's where he was comfortable. He decided to just be comfortable throwing or just like taking pull-ups instead of trying to create for his teammates. And that's okay to me. Like, that was good. But the thing is that he looked entirely comfortable as a scorer at Summer League this year. I thought Bub looked absolutely fantastic. He averaged 15.8 points, did only shoot 32.9%, but made 35.9% of his 3-pointers on 8 attempts, which is something that was a real concern for him coming in. Made 86% of his free throws, averaged 7.4 rebounds and 5.2 assists. I know that I'm talking about the fact that, like, he didn't throw a ton of, crazy assists or anything like that. But did have the 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. To me, it was just those assists tended to come more in the full court as opposed to the half court. And it just felt like things were just closing a little bit early for him. The fact that he was still able to be a 15, 7, and 5 guy as an 18-year-old at Summer League, creating his own shot, I thought he was really, really good.
Yeah, we got to see the full package, right, of him rebounding the ball. So we talked about rebounding with Sarr. Bub almost averages 7.5. The assists, I think he had close to a triple-double game. The efficiency wasn't there, though, right? 33% from the field. But this is another thing we talked about. Bub is a jump shooting guy. Like, he's especially off the dribble, not necessarily a get to the rim guy where the efficiency gets a little bit higher. And so he's really going to have to live with that. Let me ask you this, Sam. What did you think about his off the ball game? Because I thought he looked really comfortable with his catch and shoot three. He had some that looked really good and really fluid and really confident. And so I was very encouraged by that. Because at his size, he has size to be an off the ball guard. So if he can do that at a high level also, that just adds to the value he's able to bring throughout his entire career.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I did think he was better off the catch as a shooter. That felt a little bit clearer to me. It felt a little bit cleaner, I guess, with him shooting off the catch. But he was very comfortable getting to his spots in the mid-range, which is something that we know and expect from him, right? Like we know that he can get to that mid-range pull-up at any time and get to that shot. From three, I would agree with you. I thought he looked a little bit more comfortable off the catch. But this is what the value of Bub is to me, right? Like you can have him kind of run the show. You can have him play as the, kind of primary pseudo point guard out there, but then you can also play him off the ball and have him be like a secondary creator as well. This is why I had him as the top 8 player in the class. And I'm a big fan of what I saw at Summer League.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of it as well. It looked fine. It looked good. He took a ton of 3-point attempts, shot it at a good clip. And so it'll be interesting to see, just like you talked about with Sarr in terms of not starting that, it's going to be Kuzma and probably like Valanciunas starting there. Where does Bub fit into this rotation? Are they going to bring back Tyus? Is Tyus Jones going to be able to, is he going to be on a roster? What are we doing with Tyus Jones? Seems like it's a roster he should be on, but does Bub end up starting? What are the rotations he plays with?
Yeah, truly have no idea where Tyus Jones is going to end up at this point. But yeah, Bub I thought was fantastic. And I think that he looks like a very real, he'll probably be able to like play off the bench as a rookie, which is crazy for a teenager, right? Like I think you and I thought Bub was probably more of a longer term maybe project that might take a year in the G League to like really develop and mature, but would become something really impactful as a starter eventually. He might be able to play from day one.
Yeah. Do we need to talk about the one other rookie? Do we want to talk about him a little bit?
We do need to talk about Kyshawn George. Kyshawn George averaged 9.4 points, shot 51% from the field, 47% from three, 77% from the line, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, turned it over a crazy amount, 3.4 turnovers. Again, like to me, I thought Kyshawn just continued to look like what I didn't love about him, just in terms of not being able to create it all. But I will say that I thought he got more comfortable as Summer League continued on. Like I thought he was really, really bad in their first game and then settled in a little bit more, got adjusted to the speed of the game a little bit better and kind of figured out how to play off the catch, I think, and figured out how to play impactfully that way.
Yeah, the ball handling and the ability to attack off the bounce was pretty concerning. There was some bad stretches where he couldn't keep control of the ball. He couldn't take a bump. He over dribbled into traffic or couldn't use that dribble navigation of the secondary defender. The jumper looked good though, which was good. Whenever you're his size and you knock down threes at the way he did, that's encouraging. He's just got to figure out how else he provides value, whether it's on the boards. I know we've talked about and had some concerns with the athleticism. What does that mean for him defensively? To be a 3-and-D guy, you got to be able to do it on the other end as well. So he may be able to get away with some of this if he finds other ways to provide value, but the ball handling, the ability to put it on the deck, like I thought of him as a skilled wing with size, but really I thought all he showed was just the shooting with size. It wasn't the all around skill package of being able to dribble and pass and do those type of things. So
he can pass for sure. It's just he can't actually get anywhere to like force help is the issue to me. So yeah, look, I mean, I think that Sarr needs to figure out the scoring, right? Bub, I think looked great. Like I don't really have like Bub. The thing that I mentioned in terms of like the windows closing too quick, that'll get itself sorted out. He'll adjust to that and he'll be comfortable with that at some point. Like he's going to be really, really good. Kyshawn, made shots, which is a big thing that they need. They need somebody with size who can come in and shoot. We just talked about floor spacers getting paid. I do think Kyshawn can definitely shoot it. Yeah. We'll see what else he brings though, because I didn't see a whole lot else. And I thought that the turnover numbers were obviously, a little bit of a concern, but to me, like this draft will go on how Sarr and Bub kind of mature and grow. And, they both need to get stronger. Overall, though, I thought Bub was more impressive at Summer League, but I do want to give Sarr a little bit more credit than where I think he is getting from everybody else, just because I thought he was quite good on defense. I thought he was quite good as a passer, and I thought he was very versatile on defense in the way that you want to see. He was a good rim protector. He was versatile in terms of pick and roll coverages. I thought that stuff really showed for him. In the fluidity athletically really showed and popped, I thought, in a real way. Just like the balance, everything he has there just has to get so much stronger at this point.
Yeah, his lower body has to get stronger. You can see him getting pushed off and getting off balance, and the issues that creates for him. And that could be some of the scoring issues, even from the 3-point line, if he's struggling to really get his feet underneath him and get set and on balance, as he's having to get the shot off even quicker and all of those things. So I'm in the same place where I bought into the archetype. I bought into the flashes offensively. And if it comes together, I think he's going to end up being where I had him. And if he doesn't, if he's a 20% 3-point shooter that never does the big guy things in terms of play finishing, then, he's a backup big who does a lot of rim protecting and defensive things, but you can't have on the floor all the time because he's a negative offensively. I was really encouraged by the passing. I'm glad that was something you saw as well.
Yeah, I thought he was a really good passer, and it came naturally within the flow of things.
Yeah.
In a way that you want to see NBA bigs be able to make plays out of short rolls, be able to make plays when they catch the ball in the middle of the court, particularly. It's time to talk about Reed. Reed Sheppard at number 3 overall.
Okay. That's it.
So
that's all you got.
He's so good. Reed is so good. It was funny. Like, I think people that listen to the show all year probably know that Reed was my favorite prospect, right? Like that was real.
No.
And I still ended up with him at number 2.
Reed Sheppard is not your favorite prospect. Stop. That is blasphemy. That is false advertisement. Reed Sheppard is not your favorite prospect in the 2024 draft.
Oh, you're out of your mind. I had him in the top 6 in freaking November.
The chat will spam the name that I'm thinking of right now that I'm
sure you're thinking Cam Spencer, but
everybody's thinking Cam Spencer because that's right.
Cam is, I have a special place in my heart for Cam, but Reed is the guy that I feel like I probably should have had at number 1. Just in my heart of hearts, you know what I mean? When we talked about him, he was the guy I was most excited about. I just thought there was more downside. You know what I mean? With what we saw at Summer League compared to Alex, he's just so good. The decision making, he turned it over a little bit, especially later in those couple of games in Summer League. But the thing that popped most to me, beyond just the general feel, Houston let him rock with the ball in his hands and let him create, let him be the playmaker, let him be the primary pick and roll player. His ability to get to the mid-range, elevate, and knock down shots at a significant rate was fantastic.
Yep.
It's the fact that he was able to get that rhythm out of ball screens, take that little, string out side dribble with the ball, keep the dribble live, and then be able to elevate into that mid-range jumper with rhythm, with flow, with polish, with comfort. That's a deadly shot for him if he can have that. If he can be CJ McCollum with that shot, which is what it kind of reminded me of watching him, that specific shot. I mean, not his overall game. Be a better passer than CJ and be a more efficient 3-point shooter than CJ. I mean, it's hard for me to come up with a comparison. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I saw people say Mark Price, right? I didn't fucking watch Mark Price. I'm 34. You're a little bit older than me. I
had to look up.
No,
I didn't. I saw this as well. I had to look up the stats because I was I knew Mark Price just as a floor spacer, and I'm is this really the compliment that people think it is? And then Mark Price had years where he averaged double-digit assists and stuff. I was okay, just based off the stats, yeah, sure, I understand what people are saying. I get it. Sure.
No, like if he's Mark Price, like Mark Price was like phenomenal. He was like a 47, 40, 90 career shooter in 72 or 720 games. Averaged 15 points and 7 assists and was, you know, a 4-time All-Star. Like if that's Reed Sheppard, I mean, fucking great. You know what I mean? Like we're all in, right? It was that, like the ability to get to the mid-range shot and play out of ball screens, which he just didn't get a chance to do a lot of this year, right? I think that what impresses me most about Reed, and it's hard for me to like stop and talk about Reed because I was just so ridiculously impressed. Like what stood out most to me beyond the mid-range stuff that he was able to get to was his capacity for like learning in game. His second halves were better like every single game except for the first one. I think the first one he was like ridiculous in the first half and was like unbelievable. I had to like go back and rewatch it because I think I was in the other gym to start. But like over the course of the games that he played, he got better in every single one and figured out, except for the first one, and figured out like how to adjust to how defenses were playing him already. He like that capacity for adjustment and learning is going to allow him to be effective, I think, pretty early. When we talked rookie of the year, we didn't really talk a lot about Reed because we were worried about like, and shout out Edey Joseph.
Edey called us out on Twitter, or I don't know if he called us out, but he mentioned us.
Yeah, and Edey's the best. You know, big wig over at CBS. He's fantastic. I love him. I've, you know, talked to Edey for a decade now. He's a good friend. He was like, you guys didn't mention Reed for rookie of the year. And I was just like, I don't know when he's going to play. Like they have Fred VanVleet. They have Jalen Green on this team still. They have Amen Thompson who probably wants some point guard reps. Like I think Reed might force their hand. Like the capacity to figure out the way defenses are playing him, adjust and go from there says to me he's going to get better over the course of his rookie season. Yeah, I think that Reed looks like I think he looks pretty sick, to be honest with you.
No, I thought he looked really good, and I'll admit, you know, I didn't have him quite as high as you. I think he ended up like 4 on my board or something like that. We mocked him a lot at number 3, so that, you know, says where, you know, how we felt about him for sure. I wasn't sure, and this is a later episode in a bigger conversation. I wasn't sure how I felt about the on-ball usage, the ball screen usage, how he manipulated ball screens, how nuanced he was in ball screens, how, you know, was he strong enough and big enough? And we'll see this, right? Like this is still summer league when he gets against the highest quality of NBA defenders in the league.
Totally.
And the game gets more physical, like we saw at the end of last season and going into the playoffs. Is he still able to get to his spots? If he is, like the mid-range jumper was the most impressive thing from Reed Sheppard to me. And you just outlined all of it all summer league. Every game I turned on, I was like, man, this is contested, but we know the elevation is real. So that was, and he threw some sick passes, Sam, like ridiculous passes. And the way he read the floor and being able to get the ball where he wanted to. We talked about this. He shot 28% from 3 and still averaged 20 points a game. That might be the most impressive stat that we talk about with a player, because his elite superpower is what? His 3-point shooting. And he didn't shoot it well and was still able to go drop 20 a night. My 2 biggest concerns were the on-ball stuff, looked good in summer league, and then the point of attack defense. I still have concerns with that, but I think as a defender, he's so active and active. I was sitting by some people at summer league who were like, yeah, like they don't give out compliments easy. And they were even saying his hands are just ridiculous on the defensive end. And so that's where he really makes up for the size and some of those things he'll have issues with at the point of attack.
Yeah, I watched the second half of one of Reed's games with Tom Crean. And we were just like sitting there kind of marveling at how impressive he looked in ball screens compared to what his experience is in ball screens.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. The fact that he was just like completely capable of running the show comfortably and confidently from that like moment onward, from the moment go basically in summer league. and then adjusted and learned. Like that's the whole thing to me. That's why I was so impressed with Reed. Defensively, like he had some bad on ball moments. Like he got bullied on the ball at times. Like guys would kind of just like go through his chest in a real way. Defensively, like there are going to be worries on the ball, off the ball. Like his hands were active. His hands are incredible. He has like really, one of the things with Alex Sarr that we didn't mention was the bobbly stuff was still there.
Yep.
His hands have to get stronger. That's my biggest thing with Alex Sarr, honestly, that, we didn't talk about. Alex's hands have to get so much stronger. His wrists have to get stronger. Like that's going to be a whole thing for Sarr. But with Reed, like he has that hand strength and he has the hand quickness that allow him to be a playmaker away from the ball. I think he's just, I think the world of Reed Sheppard at this point. Wherever you want to project him in terms of like ceiling, I'm comfortable with it. I think is where I'm at. Like if you want to project that he's going to be an all-star, I'm good with it right now. He looked that good to me. Look, the defense is a concern and we'll see where it goes. Like on ball, teams will try to attack him. That's the reality. He'll have to figure it out, but his hands are great. He fights, he competes, he scraps, he claws. Yeah. I loved, everything that we saw from Reed Sheppard at Summer League. And you mentioned the fact that he shot 28% from three. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Because he's going to play more off the catch. Like eventually, like if he plays for Houston, he's not going to be the best player on the floor that teams have to worry about in terms of shot. I mean, maybe he is, God, but like that's a whole other thing, right? If he's their best player at some point, like that's a good problem to have because this team's like a 500 team this year. But like if he's not, that means he's going to get more shots off the catch, which is like absolutely filthy, right?
Yeah, so he'll figure it out. I'm not. That wasn't me worried about the jumper at all. It was a way of giving him a compliment that he shot that percentage and still scored 20 points a game, and I think that's impressive.
Yeah. No, look, I'm fascinated. This is now like the most interesting rookie in the league to me this year by far. If he just like goes into training camp and just like earns a rotation spot for Houston, that would be really intriguing to watch because it would make Houston now. Here's what I'll ask you. Houston has a lot of decisions to make in the next year. Jalen Green has his extension number. Alperen Şengün has his extension number. It seems like they're going to wait on Şengün potentially because of the cap hold. He has a lower cap hold, very similar to what the Tyrese Maxey situation was this past year, where they could have extended Maxey last summer. They decided not to. It allowed them to get Paul George, right? Because Şengün's number is so low next year and they have all this roster and money flexibility still, with also Fred VanVleet having a team option on his money for next year. They have a lot of flexibility to be able to do a lot of different things now. Does the fact that Reed played this comfortably at Summer League change your calculus and how you handle some of these upcoming decisions? And the obvious one to me that it could change is Jalen Green.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't want to make anything based off the Summer League, but based on how high we were going in and how he played, it could definitely change things, right? With the we talked about this from the start with Reed in terms of him potentially being a Fred VanVleet-ish type of replacement, or a lot of the feedback we got, Sam, as we talked about him being a great compliment to Amin Thompson was, well, he's not a great fit with Jalen Green. Well, maybe this changes that calculation in general. I think a lot depends on how good does Amin look this year? How good does Cam Whitmore? You have all of these wings. If those guys are really good, and then you think Amin and Reed are your backcourt and they look awesome, then maybe you don't bring Fred back on that team option. Maybe you make a move for Jalen Green and sell high on him if he's playing really, whatever. So I think he is. Right now, there's a chance. What I would say is I could see the path where he is good enough and shows enough, and him and Amin together, especially, where it changes this team's plans in the immediate future for a guy like Fred VanVleet, for a guy like Jalen Green, and then you have all of those wings and obviously the big man.
The other thing I would say for Houston is like, I love the Houston young guys, right? Like I think these dudes are awesome. I don't think they have a number one like guy out of all their young guys, like on a title team. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they have like the guy. who is going to be the guy who like leads them to a championship. Now, with the way the CBA is altered now, maybe that standard shifts a little bit. If you have a really deep team of a lot of great, role players and young players and everything like that, maybe you can be more of a great team as opposed to a team that has one great guy with a lot of role players around them, right? Like maybe you can have 8 or 9 of those guys now and that'll adjust things. But I think Reed is their highest ceiling guy if it all goes right now. Like if everything goes right for Reed and he is a great mid-range scorer, great 3-point shooter that we all know, unbelievable passer playmaker, unbelievable overall defensive playmaker. I think he has the highest ceiling to be that guy in today's NBA. Like for instance, Great Babe in the YouTube comments brings up Amen, just I assume due to the athleticism. I think I'm betting like skill in like feel over athleticism in today's NBA. I don't know. I'm not sitting here saying that he's going to be this. I'm saying if it all breaks right for Reed, I think he's the highest like upside swing that they have right now.
So I think we're having two different conversations. I think there's a difference between like highest ceiling and number one option, like number one player. I don't know. Because like, I don't think
number one player on a title team.
I don't think Amin is ever your number one scoring option, but I think he could have the highest ceiling just in overall impact, because there's a world where Amin Thompson is your primary ball handler and also your best defensive player at a potentially, like, does Amin have all NBA potential defense with that athleticism?
Totally.
Yeah. And then rebounds and all of those things. And so to me, there's a certain ceiling there that's crazy, but I don't think Amin is ever going to have the scoring package to be your number one offensive option, where Reed, because of the scoring package. Now, like one thing does he ever finish at the rim? Because I think to be a number one scoring option, you probably either have to draw fouls or finish at the rim at a high rate or something like that. So Amin was the first one that came to mind for me, other than Reed. Like Jaylon has number one scoring option, but we've only seen it for a single month at a time. And then we've seen it, regress back to not that.
Yeah. Like to me, it's fanciful to think that Amen is ever going to be more than like fanciful.
That's not a word.
It is projecting without much basis in reality to think that Amen is going to be like some incredible pull-up shooter in the mid-range or anything like that at some point. Right.
What a word. Good for you, man. I had to Google that.
To me, I want my guy to be able to, my number one option to be able to like create kind of all across 3 levels. Do you think it's more likely that Reed becomes a capable finisher at the basket, or that Amen becomes like a capable pull-up shooter?
I think it's more likely that Amin is a quality mid-range player compared to Reed at the rim. I do not think it's more likely that Amin becomes a capable 3-point shooter compared to Reed at the rim.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's more like pull-up gravity more than anything, right? Like,
so you're saying from like 3 or mid-range? I have a hard time.
Like, I think Amen, I think like you can develop like a catch and shoot 3 like a couple of times a game. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where I'm at on it. It's the pull-up stuff that matters though. Like that's where, if you're projecting this guy to be like the primary like on-ball creator, that's where it gets hard for me with Amen.
Yeah. I think where it comes out, it's an interesting point. As much we love Houston's young talent across the board, going to Tari Eason and everybody. But it is interesting as you look at it, there's some decisions coming in terms of, if none of these guys are that dude, at some point you have to go get that dude. And obviously it's not
Totally.
going to be Fred at his age and who he is as a player. It's not any, it's interesting. They're in an interesting spot, a good spot, but an interesting spot with all of this young talent.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I've always like I think Reed is a higher upside player than like Jalen Green, personally, at this point. That's no shots at Jalen Green. I just think Reed's like passing and playmaking and feel is just like worlds ahead of where Jalen Green is. Jalen has like all the athleticism and like separation ability and all that stuff, but like the ability to like make plays for your teammates and be an unselfish player, I don't know, man. I told you that I thought Reed was the guy I was most interested to watch coming into Summer League. And
He was
we
good.
saw basically like a full scale version of what he could be. And it's hard not to overreact to that. I think it's really hard for me not to overreact to that right now.
Sure. He was really good.
Also, is this the first time I've ever looked more tan than you on camera?
And you're not. You're
no,
not
I'm
tan
exceptionally pale, and you are very tan. Like,
I don't know what it is. I'm very tan right now because I've spent all summer outside. I was just at this football camp. Like, if anything, I'm burnt right now. So I don't know. You look really tan. You're.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
Maybe
let's go to number. Let's move on. I'm just excited that I don't look like a pale human being. Yeah, like Guru's son like says I'm Italian and Italians tan. Bryce can assure you I do not look tan. I am exceptionally pale. Okay. Let's go to number 4, Steph Castle. We didn't get to see a ton of Steph. Like Steph played the one game in Vegas. Played the game in Utah as well. Any thoughts on
California?
Steph? I guess
2 in California.
And California, yeah. Do we want to spend a ton of time on Steph? What were your thoughts?
No, like I again like the way he was operating ball screens. I think that looked good. He had control of things. This is one, and somebody brought this up to me, and I should have bought into it more. We saw him do this in high school, so this wasn't as surprising that he was able to do it. It's just when he went a whole college season and we didn't see it as much. As I look at the numbers now, I just kind of wonder what his role is going to be with the Spurs, because he took 18 shots a game. He took over 5 threes a game. Is he going to get that type of usage with the Spurs, or do we see him back in a role similar to what we saw at Connecticut? I don't know. I hope we get to see a lot of on-ball usage and some freedom and those type of things. But with Chris Paul there, with Devin Vassell, obviously Wemby, it could be easy for him to all of a sudden be the 3rd or 4th option on the floor and not get that same use. And I'm not saying he has to get it. I'm just kind of interested to see what role they ultimately put him in. But I did like seeing, and you could see the strength with him in some of this stuff as well, offensively and defensively.
The fact that they let him run ball screens was really exciting to me. I was really pumped to kind of get a chance to watch him play out of that setting again, because we didn't get a chance to see it a ton of Connecticut, and we did see him do it a decent amount at the high school level. Look very comfortable. I'm glad you brought up the strength. Guys would like try to recover from the side and behind him and just had no chance. The fact that he's 19, 20 years old, he's going to get stronger. Like strong guys, sometimes they develop physically earlier, but like I think that by and large, stronger guys do still tend to get stronger as they age and grow in the NBA. And I think that he's one where he's going to get stronger. Like he looks like a guy that as long as he continues to stay comfortable and poised and, capable of playing in ball screens just from a skill perspective, that's going to keep getting better and better. Look, like I still don't love the look of the jumper, if I'm being completely honest. Like he made them at Summer League occasionally, which was a good sign. But to me, I would like to see a little bit more of a sample before I like really kind of dive into the weeds on the jumper.
I agree. And if I just want to shout out quick, the other Harrison Ingram shot it well from 3 in 4 games and rebounded the ball. That's a guy I'm interested. And then you tweeted about this guy, Riley Minix, got a couple games, shot the ball well from 3, got some buckets, interesting player. I don't know what someone
needs to two-way him.
As I say, I don't know what the season looks like for him, but Riley Minix is a guy that was on my board at the end, and I was interested to see how things turned out. So,
yeah, I had a top 70. I'm like 65, maybe even, honestly. Someone needs to two-way Riley Minix. He is a Sam Hauser starter kit, basically, is the way I would put him. We opened the show talking about Sam Hauser. Summer League is a great place to find future Sam Hausers. Riley Minix would be my answer to that right now. It might take a couple of years, but man, the way he moved without the ball, the way he shot it, yeah, someone needs to two-way Riley Minix, point blank.
For sure.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a crazy amount else on Castle just because, we only got to see him live for one game. The passing I thought was like, okay. He turned it over a little bit more than you'd like to see in that one game that he played at Summer League. But yeah, look, I think that he's going to be a really effective player. I had him at number 3, and I'm a big Steph Castle fan, right?
For sure. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. Number 5 is your guy, Ron Holland, for the Detroit Pistons. You have numbers in front of you. Go ahead and read them off.
Yep. 17.3 points, 7.3 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, 1.3 blocks, 1.3 turnovers on 37, 18, 67% from the free throw line.
I thought he was exactly what his pre-draft profile was.
Inefficient.
Inefficient, wild, and so athletic, and such an aggressive, competitive straight line driver that he was able on this level to create shots. I have no idea how translatable any of this is to like the actual NBA.
Yeah. Now it'll be agreed. He looks the best when he can get downhill in a straight line. I don't think he has a ton of wiggle, or like he's not a guy you want playing with the ball. Look good in transition at times. Defensively, he had flashes of what we, have talked about him being very good. He's not, for Pistons fans, we always kind of compare him to a Sarr because that's what it's easiest to do. I don't think he has a Sarr level upside defensively. Rebounded the ball well. That is one thing I like to see. Almost 3 offensive rebounds a game. I thought Detroit came out of this draft with 2 really good off the ball movers, and that showed in Summer League.
Yeah.
I will also say he wasn't like Sasser was very much looking to get buckets. And so he wasn't playing with a point guard necessarily looking to get him shots in terms of Ron. So but he's got to make threes. I think my biggest concern, and again, it's Summer League. I know we always have to give this caveat, but I just want to make sure, was actually the rim finishing, Sam. It wasn't the three as much as
great finisher.
He struggled. He looked better when he had touch like 6 to 8 feet. But when he challenged guys at the rim up until his most recent game, not the game that's going on right now, but the one before this, he didn't have a whole lot of he really struggled to finish, got shots blocked, didn't take the contact, wasn't able to like maneuver the ball around the contest. Now, this last game, he had a couple and ones where he really took contact and was able to finish. But I think that's my biggest area of growth for him right now is actually that he's got to figure that out. I think that's even more important than figuring out the 3-point percentage.
I kind of think he will finish, to be honest with you. Like, I think he will eventually finish the rim. To me, it is the shooting. Like, he can't shoot. Yeah. Like, he just can't shoot. And the floor, as we know from Pistons era things, it's hard to get on the court effectively if you can't shoot. Ausar Thompson does literally, I would argue, everything that Ron Holland does, just at a higher level than Ron, outside of dribbling the basketball and like driving to the rim.
Yes.
Right. Like
Agreed.
All of the floor game stuff, the defensively, both on and off ball defense, passing, rebounding, like all that stuff. He's better than Ron Holland at all that stuff. And it's still hard to put him on the court.
Yeah. He's a worse shooter than Ron Holland though, too.
Is he?
Yes. If for no other reason other than I buy Ron's mechanics more than I buy a
So yes, I would agree with you there, but functionally it doesn't really matter because neither of them get to a level where you have to close out on him.
Correct. I that was bad phrasing. I believe in Ron developing.
No, you were right. To be clear, like I trust Ron more than Ausar to shoot,
I trust it long term also based on the current mechanics.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but like at a certain level, I mean,
they're both so far. They're both so far below. It doesn't necessarily matter. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And the
So
problem, we've talked about this, the problem with Detroit is you have 3 of those guys in those 2 and Jalen Duren, and then another one in Jaden Ivey who doesn't shoot it well in general and especially not very consistent that you would like to play, and none of them are good enough shooters to play them together and without completely crushing your floor spacing.
yeah, I will say, like, there was a lot of Bobby Klintman buzz, right? Bobby had solid moments at Summer League as well. I've seen some Pistons fans say like they were more excited by Bobby Klintman. I was definitely more excited by Ron Holland, to be clear. Ron looked good enough to, like, the thing is that this, I was having a conversation with an assistant GM at one of the like things I went to at Summer League. And what his point was is if Ron hits, he's really going to hit.
Yep.
Because he's a downhill driver who can really score and like get to the basket and plays competitively and is tough. And like you project the defense. Again, I will say I thought he was really bad defensively at Summer League, and he was really bad defensively this year for the Ignite, but he's so competitive and has so many tools and the length and the athleticism that you assume at some point the defense is going to come along, right?
Yep.
If it hits, it's really going to hit. It's just like it's a high variance swing to me. And if I'm the Pistons, like it's not what I would have done, but like whatever.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I mean, I've said it, I've given the floor comps, the ceiling comps, and the in-between comp. And yeah, I mean, like you just, you hope the percentage is higher. This is the high end comp. Like this is the name.
Jaylen Brown is, Dougie T in the YouTube comments brought up, how does he compare pre-draft to Jaylen Brown? The difference to me in Jaylen is I thought Jaylen was much more vertically explosive and powerful. And I did like the shot mechanics better.
Sure. Yeah.
Than what I like Ron's.
Sure.
But like having Jaylen on the court, like for the first 5 years of his career, like there was a field deficiency there. It's just, he was so athletic and became so capable as a shooter early that it worked. Right. Yeah. I think Jaylen is a better prospect, but I liked Jaylen coming in. I had a top 5 grade on him when he was, but you know what though? Like not dissimilar insofar as like Jaylen was all over the map for teams coming into the draft. That was the first one I ever did, I think. And he were maybe the second one. He was truly all over the map for teams.
So yeah, like Fred Vincent has some work to do with Ron Holland. Hopefully he is able to come in there and be the savior that a lot of people are hoping. I would say Bobi shot the ball really well. That's what got Pistons fans excited. It's also this team, we have watched them not have a 4-man, a real true 4-man for so long. It's like, oh, this is a guy with some length and some size. He spaces the floor. I will say this, Bobi passed the ball really well. And this is where I think you like that more than me in evaluations. And it looked pretty good during Summer League. So yeah, very interesting second round pick, two-way guy not a two-way, standard contract guy. He got the two-way exception. So he looked good. He was solid.
Yeah, look, I think Klintman is a reasonable, second round flyer, and the shooting looked good. I thought that the rebounding more than anything was most impressive to me with Bobi.
I agree.
I've known he can shoot it. It's just that like the thing I've talked about all year with Bobby Klintman was the fact that he would have moments where he was like unbelievable. He'd have like a 5-minute stretch in the second quarter where he was the best player on the court, and then he'd be invisible for the other like 3 5-minute stretches that he would play during the NBL. What I liked about Summer League is that I thought that he consistently brought the rebounding and the physicality and the cutting over the course of all of the minutes that he played. And that consistency was better than what I saw in terms of like effort and aggression. Not effort even, like he plays hard. It's just like he was more visible and active.
Impactful.
All the time.
The impact was, yes, I would agree with that. 100%.
100%. So I liked Bobby Klintman's minutes. I thought he looked like look, they have so many guys that you never know who's actually going to be in their rotation. But like, if he ends up playing a couple of minutes here or there, that wouldn't blow my mind. Okay. So I watched Daniss Jenkins go for like 25 in a game. Do you care to give 5 seconds on Daniss Jenkins?
No, he's interesting. He got a little bit of explosiveness off the dribble, really good ball screen navigator on that end of the floor. Daniss Jenkins is interesting. I know he's got a lot of fans with Detroit Pistons fans. He's on a two-way this year. So we'll see with the Crews.
Okay, Tidjane Salaun. Do you have the numbers in front of you? Because I don't.
I absolutely do, Sam. He averaged 9 points per game, 7 rebounds, essentially nothing else, like truly 0.3 assists, no steals, no blocks, 0.7 turnovers, 42, 10, 50%, and 19.4 minutes in 3 games played.
Yeah. Look, not ready for the NBA.
We
knew
knew
this
it.
coming
We
in.
knew it. Yeah.
Like,
he plays really
it's
hard.
fine.
That's the only
Yeah.
way it was going to be on the floor, is playing hard and rebounding. Can't dribble yet. Gets lost at times. We knew this. It's okay.
Yep. It's going to take time for Salaun.
Yes.
He's a project. I wouldn't expect him to play a ton of minutes this year for Charlotte, just to be point blank. I would expect him to end up playing most of his time in the G League, and just don't take that as a sign that he's nothing. I think he'll be like a good, solid player down the road, but like you take number 6 for like a significant upside swing. And like, that was something that I think you and I like never really saw. We saw it more as like, hey, this guy like could be Aaron Gordon or something like that.
Yes.
More than he could be Giannis or like the crazy upside swing. Everyone compared the 2013 draft to the 2024 draft, right? And I think people got real excited about like, oh, Salaun can be like the Giannis in this draft that like breaks through and gets, I don't think he has that ball skill at the end of the day. But he plays hard. He's aggressive, physically, like just looks like he belongs out there 100%. Like he's a big dude, but it said a lot, for instance, that like their first summer league game, I was there. They brought him off the bench with like 2 minutes left in the first half. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, or in the first quarter, I'm sorry. Like he was barely in their rotation. It's just going to take time. And he's like there's no point in talking a lot about him because he's just purely like a check and see in a few years guy. And we did like a full breakdown on Salaun. You can go watch the video. And that was on his best game that he played all year. And we were still just like, this is going to take a lot of time.
I mean, he's the ultimate next year. Whenever we do this on July 23rd, and we're talking about the sophomores at Summer League, that's when we'll have to have a real conversation. If he doesn't look good, or he can't play 30 minutes, or he's not making shots, or he's getting lost on defense still, then we need to have a real conversation. Yes, he's the number 6 pick. Yes, you would like to see more. No matter where he got drafted, whether it was 1 or 30, it was going to be the same conversation. He's not ready. It's going to take time.
I think that's right. Okay. Number 7 is Donovan Clingan.
Got you. Clingan averaged 9 points, 12.3 rebounds, 2 assists, almost a steal, 4.3 blocks, 2.8 turnovers, 36% from the field. Interesting number. 23% from 3, 50% from the line, 25.4 minutes a game, 4 games played.
Best defender I saw at Summer League point blank.
Sure. Yeah.
That's the reality. 4.3 blocks and impacted countless more shots at the basket. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous how good he was defensively on the interior. Impacted every single thing that happened when he was on the court. Defensively, he was just completely and utterly everything that the Blazers hoped for when they drafted him. I think it was like his second game, he dished out like 5 assists. He was what they wanted as a passer and playmaker, much like Alex Sarr. Like the scoring was a significant issue. Needs to figure out the touch around the basket through contact, I would say. But I thought Donovan Clingan was, if you notice, like Alex Sarr, the game that everyone points to is the game where he went like 0 of 15 from the field. It was Donovan. Like Donovan was the reason he went 0 of 15 from the field. He was everywhere on the interior. He was insane defensively on the interior.
Yeah, and this is what you want to see, right? This is how we would talk about him. This is how you pitch him as a top 5 prospect, a top 10 prospect, wherever you had him on the board. And obviously where he got drafted at number 7 is he had to be this defensively. And I felt like he could, because I believed in the movement ability, the recovery ability, and he's able to show those things. It's interesting. What does he bring offensively? You know, at his size, you're hoping, big screens, create shots for teammates, those type of things. But, the play finishing, it's not exactly great. As much as we crushed Sarr, 36%, even though he did take 3.3 threes, that's not great percentage for a big. trying to do the things he's doing with play finishing and all of that. And especially, just like I said with Sarr, he averaged 3.5 offensive rebounds, but almost 9 defensive. So he's really dominating the boards on both ends of the court. I'm just fascinated, Sam, to see how Portland plays out this center position in terms of, does Robert Williams III get traded before the season? Do they try to play him and show health before they move him? What are we doing with Duop Reith? Because I assume some teams could use a young big who could potentially space the floor. So I am fascinated. You talk about positional competitions or whatever going into camps or rotation things across the league. For a team that's not going to be very good, that center rotation in Portland is one that just fascinates me. I think about it every day.
Yeah. I would imagine that at some point in the next 6 months, Rob Williams is getting moved. It's just where Clingan's not gonna be able to play more than 25 a night.
No, I was just saying, he's not, but you want him to play 20. And so now you're already down to 28 for Ayton. There's no minutes left.
I would bet you that they do 5 minutes a game of Ayton Clingan.
They play him together.
I'm not sitting here saying that this is a good idea. I'm sitting here saying that they will probably try it at the very least and try to get those guys on the court here and there together. Yeah, and then Duop Reith, I don't know, Duop can play, so I'm very curious there. But look, the thing I'm almost most looking forward to is the Summer League All-Star teams or whatever, right? They do those things and they're always fucking stupid, whatever. I'm assuming Julian Strawther is going to win MVP because he averaged 28 points per game and all that shit, right? Donovan Clingan should be on one of those teams. He led the league. He led the thing in rebounding and dominated in blocks. He averaged 12 rebounds in 25 minutes a night. He was insane. He crushed the glass. He was an awesome passer and playmaker. Donovan Clingan was awesome at Summer League.
This is a ridiculous.
He was not.
No, this is ridiculous. We should not have Summer League All-Star teams.
But we're gonna name them they. No,
we're not. Okay, they can. We're not. I quit if we have to do our Summer League All-Star team. I quit.
Maybe I'll make you do that. Maybe that's our last Summer League pod is making you do.
That's Bryce's last pod on Game Theory podcast. Somebody hire me. 30 NBA teams. Surely you need a scout in Kansas so I can continue the trend.
Yeah, right. West Kansas, where you can't get to an airport within 4 hours.
Shut up. You just ruined it. No, nobody's going to hire me.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, man. So the other guy we didn't mention, by the way, for Detroit real quick, Tolu Smith is averaging a double-double. I just do want to shout out Tolu Smith.
Sure. Yeah. He's solid.
But yeah, no, Donovan Clingan, I think has looked really good. Just stop shooting threes, please. just don't shoot them.
Yeah.
I'm not asking a lot. Just don't shoot them. You're not ready to shoot them yet, Donovan. The shot, you don't look comfortable shooting them is my problem. He takes them, he catches, somebody sags way off of him and dares him to shoot. And then he takes that weird, kind of twitchy, hitchy, load into the shot and just doesn't look super comfortable. Yeah, I think that Clingan looks really, really good. I think he's going to be awesome. I think he's going to be really, really good. Okay. Number 8 is Rob Dillingham. So Rob Dillingham, I think it was last night or this morning or something. I don't know when he played, but I went and watched the tape on Synergy. Had 25 points and 12 assists. I thought that was the game where he looked most confident and comfortable out on the court. For what it's worth, I thought he looked quite poor in the first 2 games that he played. And then I kind of asked around a little bit. And from what I gather, he hasn't played a crazy amount. And the ankle still isn't bothering him, I guess. But because he dealt with the ankle injury through the pre-draft process, he still might not be at full speed yet, was the thing. Because my thing on Dillingham early on was that I thought he looked slower on the court comparatively to what he looked at Kentucky. I guess that I would just tell people maybe slow down a touch before like saying that he is slow. And that like the Kentucky tape is different than the summer league tape, because I guess that look, I don't think the ankle is like still injured or anything. I think it's like a comfort level thing from what I gather. And if that's what it is, it makes sense, because I mean, if you watch the game, today or last night, whenever it was, he looked so much more comfortable, like getting in and out of his crossovers, using like real speed, getting up and down the court. Made some like completely absurd shots in this game that like he shouldn't take in real games, but got really, really hot in the second quarter there for a minute, like drilled like back-to-back threes and drilled like a mid-range shot. Like it was absurd. He more than anybody, I guess I would say, is just like, I fell into this the first time I saw him. I was like, oh, he looks a little bit slow on this court comparatively. Don't necessarily think that, I guess is what I would say. Let him continue to like get more comfortable coming off of the ankle injury.
And that's one thing I had to, somebody reminded me or kind of talked to me about, is how long it's been since these guys may have played fives, because, Kentucky seasons ends in the first round of the NCAA tournament. You don't really play fives in these workouts for teams. Somebody like Dillingham doesn't play at the combine. And even the guys that did are playing, 20 minutes, 2 games. You don't do anything after the combine. You get drafted. You have a couple days, you sign your contract, you start workouts with your team, and it's still just scrimmages and practices and stuff like that. And then you go out and, you're playing these games. And so anybody that's done this knows that sometimes it takes a little bit to work into those things. My thing with Dillingham is, like, we know the scoring has to be there, right? Because the defense isn't going to be there. There's not size, there's not rebounding, any of those things. So he has to score it. Hopefully he does. Where are you at with the passing? Because I've seen a lot of people give that a lot of love. I saw somebody talking about it today in terms of, I don't even know if they were saying this is the ceiling for him. They were just comparing players. Like, he's not Lou Williams. He's more Trae Young. And I think the point they were trying to make was he can pass. How much do you buy the passing? Because that becomes even more intriguing if he is a break you down, distribute, find open teammates, create open shots for them along with himself.
I don't think he's Trae Young as a passer, is the easiest thing I would say.
I mean, no.
I know what the comparison is. Like, yeah,
because
like,
not very many people are Trae Young.
Yeah,
but you think he can pass?
I think he can pass. Yeah, like I definitely think he can pass. But like, so the thing is, so could Lou. Like that's people for like maybe hashtag people forget, but like, Lou could really pass. To me, this is the name that always is, if it's going to hit, it's going to hit. Darius Garland is like the more comparable name. Like Darius came up as more of an off-ball player and looked really, really effective in those respects, like playing for Brad Beal Elite is like the 2 guard almost. And then like, continued to grow and mature, has become like a really high level passer because he's so quick and can separate, right? I think it's more probably like a Garland if it really hits, but Darius can really pass. Like Darius will finish top 10 in the NBA in assists, 5 or 6 times probably in his career, maybe more than that by the time he's done. So to me, it's more that, I guess is what I would say. I think much less of Darius as a primary playmaker than I do Trae. Like I think Trae is like leaps and bounds.
We've had this conversation for sure. Yeah.
So yeah, like I think Luke can really pass. I think that Darius is a better passer than that. Maybe the middle ground between Lou and Trae Young is probably Darius Garland, and I think that's the upside swing for Rob. But man, like some of Rob's like shots today in that game or yesterday, whenever it was, like he hit some obscene ones. If you haven't watched it yet, it was like the legs, like that leg sway he does was in like full bore, and like they were completely like off balance. Like it was absurd. He had some really ridiculous ones. I like what I saw from Rob in that game. Did not like what I saw early on. I thought he struggled to separate. I thought that he didn't really defend at all, which isn't a surprise. But again, I would just like implore people maybe slow down a little bit on the Rob discourse. If he struggled a little bit and you weren't a fan early, just because I guess that the ankle was taking a second.
I mean, this Minnesota Summer League team had to be one that you loved to watch, because I saw you tweeting about Heafy, and then we can't talk about him on this episode, but Leonard Miller as well was playing here. So I'm surprised you even were able to focus on Rob. We can't talk about Leonard
Love this game, but like the other guy that we have to talk about is Terrence Shannon, because Terrence Shannon is a rookie here. And I thought Shannon, his athleticism popped on the Summer League court like in a substantial way. He was just super bouncy, super aggressive, powerful, physical. Looked like he could potentially be a rotation player this year. I'm really interested to see, like, they need a Rob Dillingham more than they need a Terrence Shannon, right, for this season. Because again, team that is right up against the second apron, trying to contend for a title, but you have to get some, production out of these younger guys in some way, shape, or form. Do you default to having the bucket getter that is Rob, or do you have like the more NBA ready, like physically capable defender Terrence kind of enter the mix, and then you just figure out like the point guard position and kind of, play maybe Ant at the lead guard when Mike is off the court, and then play Terrence. Like, they have some options that they could utilize. It's just here's the other name that would be really fun for them. Like, Tyus Jones is from there, and if they could go get Tyus, that'd be really fun. But I would imagine they won't do that. Like, if I'm Phoenix and Tyus Jones is sitting here for a minimum, I'm just like praying that he falls into my lap right now.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, because just listed, Dillingham is your only other point guard, really, other than Conley.
Could maybe play Nickeil Alexander-Walker next.
That's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about
Anthony Edwards. Yeah.
And they lost, I know he's not like a true point guard, but like you lose Kyle Anderson, who like can initiate offense and do those things. Like, does Joe Ingles do some of that for you? That's kind of who they replaced Kyle Anderson with, was Joe Ingles. It is interesting because Shannon's older, more physically ready, super explosive, especially if he's making shots. I don't think he's like a great defender in terms of solid, but he'll make like highlight real blocks and steals and impact that way. But you have a little bit more wings and Ant and McDaniels, those guys. And so, yeah, it'd be interesting to see which one can get on the floor.
Yeah. What did you think of Terrence Shannon at Summer League? Beyond kind of what we've talked about.
No, that was kind of it with him. My big thing with him is, how does he shoot? How well does he shoot it? He shot 25% from three. I think he'll have to space the floor, be really good off the ball cutter, offensive rebound. Like, how many ways can he find to use that explosion and that athleticism to impact the game? How solid can he be defensively, along with making a transition block or jumping a passing lane and all of that? But, just 8 shot attempts a game is something I like. Like, he wasn't out there just jacking necessarily, which I thought was good to see.
He was trying to get downhill as much as he could, it felt like, but not being overly aggressive like he was at Illinois, where it would be like, I'm just trying to bump into contact and like flail.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. At Illinois, he took, what did he take? 14 shots a game this last year at Illinois, and
also averaged like 10 free throws a game. Like, he was.
Yes,
it was a lot of usage.
A lot of usage.
19 or so, yeah.
And to that point, Sam, he averaged 4.5 free throw attempts in Summer League. So he found a way. And I think that was one thing that stood out to me, the difference in a rookie compared to a guy like Scottie Pippen Jr. finding ways to get fouled and get to the free throw line. It seemed like there's a definite difference in guys who have been around this. Maybe the officials just give them the calls, but for a young guy getting 4.5 free throw attempts a game, that's not bad. So,
yeah, to me with Shannon, it was like everything that he does well translated at a real level here, which is great. Everything that we had questions about, the jumper, the feel for the game in terms of like passing and decision-making and everything. And then like the defensive feel for the game as well. I thought he was like super aggressive, like trying to make shit happen, but wasn't always attached to his man. I've never been a fan of the feel for the game with TJ.
Sure. Yeah.
But Yeah. That's going to be the difference for him. Being able to play is like, he needs to be able to find that like kind of feel for the game and be able to play on the court in that way. Okay.
Yep.
Zach Edey at number 9. We did not get a lot of Edey at Summer League. Unfortunately, we did see him absolutely obliterate Walker Kessler in Utah, which was fun. And then he played that last game in Vegas and kind of sprained his ankle there too. I hope that, he's healthy. And, I think that it was a real question as to whether or not he was going to play that last game, just because, he was dealing with a sprained ankle already. So I loved what I saw from Edey in that game against Utah. He was ridiculous. I felt he was completely absurd. He was the best player on the court.
Yeah, rebounds, block shots, all of the things we know. I think one of my things I'm really interested to watch, because he's going to play. I feel like he's going to play for Memphis. Is how's the passing? The team's double jaw off a Zach Edey ball screen. Is he able to catch and make the read out of the short roll, get the ball where it needs to go, make the quick decisions? Or he's playing in a second unit and they switch and he gets a post and the double team comes. Can he make the quick decision to read the backside? And so I think we know he's huge. We know he's going to set screens. We know he's going to rebound. He's going to be able to get mismatches when teams switch, all of that stuff, left shoulder, right hand hook. He's going to be able to make it. I'm interested to see offensively, how well does he pass it? I'm not even thinking shooting or anything like that. How does he do some of those things? Yeah, he looked really good in that game, and it'll be fascinating because he's a rookie that I don't know how many of these guys on contenders are going to play roles. Like, can we project, we talked about this with Reed a little bit. Edey's going to play there, right? They haven't made any other moves to say otherwise so far. And so, I mean, they just traded Zaire in a second or whatever it was to not bring in somebody that was going to, be in the rotation as a big man. So it doesn't seem like that's where they're going with this. And so they seem to feel comfortable with him and Brandon Clark and whatever minutes you get from Triple J at the 5.
Santi as well is another
Santi.
option.
Yeah. Santi. My bad. Good. Yep.
Yeah.
Santi is.
No, I think they're going to be comfortable with this. Edey, it's just going to be, as long as he can stay out of foul trouble. Like, I think if they can get 20 minutes a game out of Edey, that's what they need. And they'll probably be fine with that. But I love what I saw from him in that one game. I thought he was physical. I thought he was strong. Had the best putback off of a free throw from Jake LaRavia that I think I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. Nice. Just the way that LaRavia missed that free throw was perfect. Went right to Edey. He just towers over people. That's the thing. And you don't recognize it until you stand next to him and you see like these guys on a court next to Zach Edey. Trey Jemison, who is on his team, who is 7 foot tall, 6'11", whatever, in like a big dude, looks small compared to Zach Edey. Like, even on the bench, like when they're both like sitting next to each other on the bench, Jemison looks small compared to Zach.
Yeah.
Like, Walker Kessler looked small compared to Zach Edey. That's a huge thing. Like, he is like, I was talking about this with a few people there. The thing with Zach is that I went out with, a friend of mine, and he's friends with one of the great, let's say, like, enforcers across the NBA of the last couple of decades. Right. And I was talking to that guy about Edey, and he goes, no, he's good. Like, he's going to be good. There are going to be no problems there. And I was like, so like, as somebody, I asked him just like straight up, as somebody that used to be like one of the biggest, baddest dudes in the league, like, do you see that with him? And he was like, yeah, no, like he is big and he is strong and he's physical and he looks like one of those dudes that likes inflicting pain.
Yeah. No, he's got a little bit of attitude in a good way, in this type of way to him that I guess I didn't focus on and see enough at Purdue, where you could see him just kind of being that dude.
Totally. No, he likes like being the biggest bully in the yard.
If I'm not mistaken, I think LaRavia went down in one of those. No, that would have been in Vegas. So that it wouldn't have been him. It must have been somebody else. I was thinking he came over and kind of got in a little. No, I was watching it on TV. I was thinking LaRavia went down and somebody kind of did something, and Edey came over and got right in the middle of it. As like, yeah, that's That's the dude I want on my team doing that whenever I get knocked to the ground a little too aggressively.
Someone is going to try Zach Edey.
They
like
probably
in the first,
should not.
Here's,
they probably should. I
here's
hope
the
it's
thing.
Draymond.
But here's the thing. Like when people like try to do something to one of his teammates or like try to get physical with him, he does this thing. If you can go back and you watch it with Purdue, right, where he kind of laughs at them a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he knows he's so much bigger than everybody. He kind of laughs at them. And if you get the wrong dude in the NBA, they will try it.
And they won't like it
within the first couple of years, someone's going to try it. And it's not going to go
like
well.
him laugh. They won't like him laughing it off. That will not be something people will like. So yeah.
Yeah. And I love it. Like I'm here for it. He's the best.
At that level, 100%. Yes.
Okay. Cam Spencer. Give me your thoughts on Cam since I'm not capable of being unbiased with this.
Best screener at Summer League.
Yeah, that's
okay. No. So real talk, I was watching a game the other day and I think it was LaRavia actually coming off a staggered. And I'm like, oh, that was a really nice screen. Cam Spencer was setting it. I was like, okay, I got to stop giving Sam shit for this because he actually is a very good screener for a guard. So yeah, I mean, he's interesting. Obviously, this has been your guy through the whole thing. If he makes shots, which it looks like he can really shoot it. He shot 57% from three at Summer League, 69% from the field, passes the ball, doesn't turn it over. This is the world he has to live in. He has to do all these little things, be the spark, the energy, all of that. I also thought here's what's cool about this. Cam Spencer was walking around the mezzanine or whatever I saw Cam Spencer more than any other player. He was just walking around all the time.
Right.
Him and Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith was the other one that just seemed to be walking around with all the people.
I don't think that people understand just like Cam Spencer is a basketball junkie, like nerd. Like seriously, he probably was just there watching games.
Sure.
Like that's it. Like I would bet you he was just there hanging out watching games. I didn't get to see him. I'm a little bit bummed that I didn't get to see him because he's just the best. But like, yeah, he loves it. He lives it. Like he breathes it. That's all that he like cares about is hoops. He's awesome. He had a great summer league. 13 points per game on, like you said, 69% from the field, 57% from three. Was fantastic. Yeah, they sprained his ankle, missed some time. I will say this. If we're going to nitpick, fouling was an issue because of the speed.
Yeah.
Guys were able to blow by him in a way that was somewhat concerning.
Sure.
To me.
Yep.
Okay. Jaylen Wells, any thoughts? He had a couple of really big games and then like had a couple of games where it seemed like he struggled a little bit.
Nothing crazy. No, with him. Yeah. You got to shoot it, right? Didn't shoot it great. 25%. That's where he's going to live, especially early in his career. Got knocked down.
Oh no, Jaylen was at, Jaylen's numbers were good. He averaged 14 points, shot 50% from the field, 40% from three and 100 from the line.
Okay. So real GM is lying to me.
Yeah. So he was real hit or miss, depending on.
Oh, the game, no, I bet what this is, what you gave is just in Vegas.
Yes, that's correct.
Salt Lake City, he did not shoot it as well from three.
Yeah, no, he really struggled from three, but he had a couple of really good games as well. Yeah, I was a fan of, I was a fan of him when he was going, but it really is just about the shot. Another guy that I've been told is like basketball junkie, like all about it, just eats, lives it, breathes it, which isn't a surprise given the growth trajectory that he's undertaken over the course of the last little while, last 5 years, basically since he was a junior in high school. But yeah, no, like absolute dude. It was really funny. I was talking to a friend that went to Memphis's, pro day or whatever. Not pro day. What do they do? The press conferences where they have
the media day.
The players get introduced, right?
Yep.
Saw this like dude there who's just like hanging out, right? Blonde hair, like 6'2.5", whatever. It's like, oh yeah, like, I know they have 3 draft picks. Like, where's their 3rd draft pick? This dude like walks onto the court and starts shooting around. He goes, oh shit, that's Cam Spencer. That's their other dude. He's just like a normal dude, to your point about just like walking around. You know what I mean? Walking around the mezzanine and like having a good time.
Jalen Wells, here's why these summer league stats are like, especially the percentages. So the stats I had were right for Vegas for the first 4 games. He was 25% from 3. Well, today, which aren't in those totals yet on where I was at, he goes 6 for 7. Well, 6 for 7 bumps that up to 40%. And so you're right. What he had a 3 for 7 game against the Sixers back on the 9th before Vegas, 3 for 9 against the Pelicans, and then 6 for 7 today. So that's where there's just not enough sample to really know, but I believe in his jumper. I think he can really shoot it. To me, what Jalen Wells is, what other things is he able to figure out?
Yeah. Number 10, we're going to get to now is Cody Williams, which gets us to the Jazz guys.
Yep.
I liked most of what I saw from Cody, even though it was very roller coastery in a way that was unsurprising. Honestly, I think the easiest way to put it is I thought it was roller coastery for all these guys.
Yeah.
It was just all over the board. Cody was the most impressive to me by far. He had an awesome game. I want to say it was on like Monday, maybe. Can't remember who it was against. He had like 21 points, 5 rebounds, just looked really impactful and effective. Right.
Yep.
Filipowski, I watched have an awesome game against Toronto where I think he had like 20 points and like maybe 7 rebounds or so. Looked really good, but like Flip really struggled, I thought, early on in Summer League. Cody, I thought, struggled with his efficiency and like dealing with the strength a little bit. And then I thought Isaiah Collier just generally struggled quite a bit. And we'll just kind of leave it at that. What were your overall thoughts on the Utah Jazz summer guys, knowing that all these guys are, 18, 19, and 20?
Yeah. And I'll watch again tonight, which it looks like only Flip is playing tonight. He has 24 and 7 with 6 minutes to go in the 4th in a game against the Pistons. So, playing well. Yeah, like Flip, it's about the jumper, right? So before tonight, 50% from 3 on 2.5 attempts. That's good. Collier didn't shoot it well. Cody was the same thing. I think Cody's going to be the guy I'm always wanting to see a little bit more assertiveness from, a little bit more aggressiveness. He did have that really big game against the Mavs that you brought up, where he had 21 points, got 15 shot attempts up in that one, which I'd like to see. The 3-point percentage, in shooting is like, I like to see a little bit more volume, or we're seeing more volume. I think he makes shots. The free throw percentage is good. I just want to be able to see it, like I said, on that volume from him. Overall in Summer League, it wasn't great, consider going back to Salt Lake one. So I think the talent is there. I think the touch is there around the rim. I think he's going to have to fill out and get stronger before we really can see what his ceiling is. Because right now he just is a little bit slider, a little bit weaker. Another guy who seems to just love hoops, though, you see him show up and just watch games. He's sitting on the baseline watching. We saw that even at the combine. I think, they showed him sitting there watching. So not a guy I was as high on as others, but I understand the skill set and was able to show that at times.
Yeah, look, I think that, the finishing at the rim is a really important point. He made 36% of his shots, averaged 15 points per game at Summer League. I thought he was pretty good. Yeah, I liked what I saw from Cody Williams. For a guy that I didn't know what to expect coming in, because he's dealt with the ankle injury late in the season at Colorado, and it took him a minute to kind of get going, it felt like, in Utah. Yeah, I liked Cody Williams a lot in Vegas, I thought.
How much do we see these guys playing? I feel like there's minutes for Cody on the wing.
It just depends on
what they do with Lowry.
Utah does. Yeah. Do they tank it all out? Like, if they tank it all out, they might like really end up playing these kids a lot. Yeah. So yeah. And look, they have 3 guys last year too. And Sensabaugh, Taylor Hendricks, and Keontae George. So those guys all have to play for sure. Hendricks, I watched him. People we're not going to talk about Hendricks. Never mind. We'll talk about him tomorrow or the next day, whenever we record. But yeah, I'm interested to see how Utah looks this year. And how much they decide to make moves to tank and, whether or not they move Lowry, etc.
Yep.
Okay. Number 11 is Modest. This is this is probably like the last longer conversation we do, I would imagine. What were your thoughts on Modest? And give the numbers while we do it.
Yeah. So Modest, 16.4 points, 4.2 rebounds, less than an assist, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 2.4 turnovers on 34, 21, 74. I'm looking at the game logs here to see. Yeah. So I kind of liked him in the Pistons game I saw, but it's kind of been the same across the board, including that game. He had one very efficient game against Golden State where he was 10 of 22 and 4 of 8 from 3, but the inefficiency just isn't there. And we talked about guys who kind of look like what we thought. His vertical pop showed. He had some highlight finishes and dunks in the Detroit game and other games that I've seen, but he had some defensive playmaking in these games as well. Yep. I think he had 4 blocks and 2 steals. He had another game where he had 5 steals against the Hawks, but he's got to make shots. That's what it really comes down to. So I kind of like the fluidity he played with, some of the things he did there, but that was the pre-draft scouting report on him as well. If you take out that one game, he makes 2 out of, 2 out of 20 from 3 or something like that. So a guy that the shooting was a concern coming in, small sample, but didn't shoot it well from 3.
I loved his aggressiveness, I guess is where I would start. There was never a single point. There were times with the Ignite where I felt like he would kind of blend in a little bit.
Sure.
More than what we'd ever seen from him at the high school level. At Sunrise, he would play within the flow a little bit more, but like AAU, he was always the driving force, right? I loved that he was so aggressive and came out and was just like, I am the guy here and I am going to be aggressive and try and score. I'm confident. I'm coming out with all this power and strength, even though I don't have it yet. I'm not strong enough to be able to I can't remember, were you with me or not? He had the last game of the night, Golden State against Chicago, and he tries to go up in transition against Trayce Jackson-Davis, one-on-one, puts his shoulder really strong into Trayce Jackson-Davis. Jackson-Davis doesn't even move. And then Buzelis goes up and tries to I don't think he tried to dunk it. I think he tried to lay it up, and Trayce swatted his shit into the 8th row. And it was the most thunderous, a loud block that you can possibly have. Modest didn't care. Just went right back to work. Yeah. Just went right back, said, I'm just going to play. I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to go and do what I have to do. I thought he was awesome in that respect. Look, from a skill perspective, the shooting is what it is. He's really just going to have to shoot it on some level. There's not really another way to put that. What did he average shooting wise and scoring at Summer League?
So this has, in the 5 games, 34 on 16 attempts and 21% from 3 on 5.6. Yeah. And again, he had one game where he was 50% from 3. So the others just, weren't great.
I felt like he was awesome in transition.
Yes.
He was aggressive in transition. I thought that's where he showcased well. I did not love him in the half court. I thought that, the handle that people get excited about didn't really showcase itself in the half court, right? The shooting obviously is a significant issue. It's just going to take him a lot of time. It's going to take Modest a lot of time to be able to figure it out. If he ever does improve skill wise, I'm a believer in the human and the confidence and aggression and all of that stuff. And you would assume he's going to get better and going to get stronger. I liked more of what I didn't like from Modest, while also acknowledging that there were flaws here and that there were significant concerns that continued to pop up every time you'd see him in the half court.
Yep. I would agree.
Okay. So now we're going to just kind of bounce around a little bit. I would
Okay.
say we've gotten through the top 11. Topic 12, Devin Carter 13 didn't play. Bub, we've talked about. Next is Kel'el Ware. Kel'el Ware 15. We've talked a lot about Kel'el since he's been drafted and since he's played this 3.5 weeks of summer league now. It feels like. I think Kel'el looked really good. I think he was significantly helped by playing with a point guard who was wholly unselfish and was just there to like get his guys the ball in Isaiah Stevens and get them rocking. But like athletically, I mean, I was sitting probably 6 rows back of the free throw line when against Boston, someone threw him a pass and he caught the ball like at the foul line, took one step. I think he took off probably from 12 feet away and dunked the ball like with room to spare at the brim. And it was ridiculous. It was completely absurd. And then that game too, like Keshad had like a massive dunk, and we'll talk about Keshad for sure. But I loved the athleticism. I thought that the athleticism, the balance, the coordination, all of that really translated. Defensively, the rebounding stuff, like that's going to have to get better. It's going to, he just needs to get more comfortable on that end. But he looked very active and aggressive on offense and hunted his shot. And I was a really, really big fan. He averaged 17.4 points, 8 rebounds, 1.2 steals, made 33% from 3, taking 2 of those per game. I thought he was everything that Miami could have hoped for in summer league.
Yeah, no, I thought he did the big guy things well in terms of play finishing, rim running, all of that. I didn't, one thing maybe I overemphasized with him was him being able to do some of the skill things, like really shoot it, pass it, those type of things. And I don't think he really showed that a whole lot at summer league. The negative assist to turnover ratio, you mentioned the 3-point percentage wasn't great, but he did the other stuff he's doing at such a high level that I don't think it matters early on, to hit a higher outcome ceiling. Obviously it would be nice. Defensively, I'm interested to see how it plays out, because the game I really watched and honed in on, I thought he kind of jumped at everything, giving up dump offs and offensive rebounding opportunities. Maybe that's what they're asking him to do. Like, just go be disruptive. I don't always know. I would assume not, right? Like that they wouldn't. And then there were still times where I felt like he was missing box outs and some of those things. But now he has it on film against this level of competition. He does have crazy recovery ability because of his athleticism, and, can just out jump and reach people on the boards. But I think to really contribute to a Miami team early in his career, I do think he'll have to figure some of those things out. I can hear it already. Derek Lively type comparisons. And
not even close.
That's what I was going to like. Maybe the play finishing, but not the passing of Derek Lively. And I don't think he's even close defensively. Right. And it's okay. It's okay. I'm not like crushing him. I'm just saying, like, I don't see that for him right away.
Yeah. I thought that he was everything you could have hoped for him being at summer league. Is early on in his career. And we'll see where it goes from there. Is where I'm at. The 2 guys I want to talk about are Keshad Johnson and Isaiah Stevens. I liked both of them better than Pele Larson, actually. I know Pele is like Miami people are kind of excited about, but I thought he looked fine on defense. I thought he was a solid play finisher, whatever. Isaiah Stevens was awesome at summer league. He is like, you need to sign him to a 2-way contract right now at summer league. Averaged 8.2 assists versus 2.4 turnovers. Took his spots well, averaged 9.8 points per game, 61% from the field, 70% from 3, 1.4 3-pointers on 2 attempts from 3 per game, 89% from the line. Completely orchestrated every single thing when he was on the court. Point blank. Like, that was it. If he was on the court, Miami's offense was in flow, and he was awesome. I loved everything I saw from Isaiah Stevens. This is a no-brainer 2-way for somebody. Hopefully Miami, but if he gets cut in training camp or whatever, immediate 2-way for somebody else.
Well, this is the interesting thing in Miami is they already have all 3 two-way spots filled, and they have one, if my count is right here off Spot Track, they have one roster spot open. So I've seen this conversation happening on Twitter today in terms of what do they do? Do they bump one of these guys on a two-way? Do they cut one of these guys on a two-way? What do you do? And the interesting thing is you already have 2 guards, kind of point guards, smaller guards on two ways to start with in Zion Pullen and Drew Smith. So it will be interesting to see how things play out in Miami. As excited as you are about Isaiah Stevens, I love seeing Keshad Johnson be good.
I loved him too. Loved him too.
Keshad was one of my guys throughout the process. I had Keshad as like a top 40, 45 player, Sam, on my board. Maybe he ends up not being that good, but whenever they got him as an undrafted free agent, that was a huge steal for me. I just thought Keshad, he's an NBA level athlete, good cutter. I think he can shoot from the corners. He's going to rebound. He's going to play hard. He's going to make those plays. How good can he be defensively? I think that, and he has to really shoot it, right? He shot it low volume, but I think he just I watched him. I was like, this is an NBA wing / forward.
I thought that the defense was really good at Summer League. Like for what Summer League is defensively, like he had a ton of really awesome switch possessions. I thought he was really, really good. I thought he was outstanding on defense throughout Summer League. Again, these are decisions you don't have to make right now. You can wait until training camp. You can wait until, October to make these choices because they have Isaiah Stevens on like an E10 or whatever.
Yeah.
The reason that you don't do this now is because you wait to see like, okay, what if we consolidate our roster with a trade, right?
Sure.
Like what if we do a 2-for-1 trade, or what if we do a 1-for-2 trade and we bring back an extra guy and we have to then figure it all out, right? Having the extra roster spot available right now is useful for them. By the end of it though, to me, you have to have Isaiah Stevens and Keshad Johnson on two ways, or you maybe convert Keshad, honestly. Like I would have no problem converting Keshad Johnson.
That would be amazing if their 3 two-way guys were Drew Smith, Zion Pullen, and Isaiah Stevens.
Yeah, let's go nuts. Like
just go crazy.
Take the best talent, right? But maybe it's you convert Drew for being like a good trooper and everything like that. Who knows?
And hopefully like Drew comes like year. I'm sure Drew's not a guy people like. Drew's the one that slipped on the coach's thing under his chair last year and tore his ACL. Like, hopefully Drew comes back healthy and really plays well.
Yep. And Pele Larson looked fine. Like I have no beef with Pele. It's just that he's a play finisher, and like it's really going to come down to how he defends at the NBA level. Can make some passes too. Like I thought he was an okay passer, but yeah, like it's just going to depend on what happens with his defense to me. Okay. The next guy I want to talk about is Jaylon Tyson.
Okay.
I thought Jaylon Tyson was one of the best players I saw in Summer League.
Love it.
I know you've watched a decent amount of him because you were a Jaylon Tyson guy. Give me your opinions on Jaylon Tyson.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. The first game, I was like, okay, I see the good stuff here. He was being physical. There was some downside. He turned the ball over a little bit, made some mistakes defensively. He did average 3.2 turnovers throughout the whole thing. So it's not like he was perfect. But I just kind of believed in Tyson. Again, I don't know if people like it when I say this or not, but I said about Keshad, he just had this NBA body. Like, I just think the way he was built, the way he moved, I thought he was going to be able to translate that to an NBA floor. And I thought he was willing to be physical. You saw the on-ball skill that he was asked to play with at California. I don't think he's going to be an on-ball player, but that can translate to secondary type playmaking in the NBA. And we saw a lot of that as he made shots, right? He shot almost 60% from the field. He made threes, which is a huge thing for him. Shot really well from the free throw line. He can rebound the ball. If he was able to take what I felt like was his feel for the game and translate it to off-ball things, Sam, I thought he would be good. And then if he was able to be decent defensively because of the usage being so much lower, I thought he really had a chance to be a contributor. So again, this was one of my guys throughout the process. And, Summer League, 5 games, he played well.
The thing that stood out to me was just the comfort and the polish of footwork as well. Just really got to his spots with ease and with balance and coordination, which is
Very
kind of what we
balanced
thought.
player.
Like he was very capable of utilizing those skills to create shots at Cal, right? But the fact that he's able to do it at, pseudo, not quite NBA speed, but at the faster speed while dealing with more physical defenders and, continuing to showcase some flashes as a passer, as a playmaker, made 40% of his threes. Really, it was the finishing, like the ability to finish at the rim was just continually ridiculous. I thought he was so good. I thought Jaylon Tyson was great at Summer League, and, probably won't make like an all Summer League team or whatever, but was one of my more impressive rookies, I would say, for sure. And by the way, the other guy that was super impressive, I thought, was Tristan da Silva with Orlando.
Yeah. Shot
He was awesome. Like, shot the cover off the ball, felt like to me. I watched a few of his games and it felt like, I don't know if I saw him miss a 3-pointer.
Yeah, it was all this. That Orlando team was fun to watch in general because of two other guys that we can't talk about tonight, and then Jay Huff as well. We talked about Jay Huff a little bit. So
yeah, Jay Huff will be a fun one for us to talk about at some point. But Da Silva, 3 games, 17.7 points, 60% from the field, 58% from 3 on 6 attempts, made all of his free throws, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, was just awesome. Like, was just
he was really
good. Knew exactly where he needed to be all the time. It's like not sexy to talk about Tristan da Silva just because it's, oh yeah, it's just the guy that knows where he has to be every single moment of the game and cuts super well and knows where to be defensively and just does all of the right things, right? Like he's going to be able to come in and play as an impact, rotational bench player from day one. I'm not real worried about Tristan.
Yep.
Yeah. I loved everything. I thought he was, again, one of the most impressive rookies, which you would expect. He's 23 years old coming into Summer League, and you would expect those guys to be able to come in and play immediately from day one. And he was quite good. The other guy I really liked as well, I thought AJ Johnson showed some real flashes at Summer League. He had a game. What was it? I think he had like 24-4 or something, 23-4, something like that. It was like the last game of the night on that arena or at Cox. I can't remember who they were playing off the top of my head, but I really liked what I saw from him in flashes too. I'm not going to sit here and say he was like one of the most impressive players at Summer League necessarily, but for a guy that I thought was going to be a real project coming in, for him to come in and average 11 points. And particularly what they did in that game was they let him kind of run the show in a way. They had him be the guy that, played point, and he was just like kind of creating shots for everybody. I liked what I saw there. He's not going to play this year for Milwaukee. He is way too skinny. He is way too thin. But I liked the creativity, the suddenness, the flexibility on ball. I thought he was really impressive when he got his moments and flashes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we'll see this with the G League team in Milwaukee all season long, because I just can't imagine he's getting any minutes with the Bucks. But he's one of those guys. Every time you watch him, your eyes kind of gravitate because he just moves in a certain way. He has a certain level of explosiveness. It was that game against the Clippers where he had 22-4 that you were referencing. So he'll be a really interesting player again to kind of track throughout the G League season, and then next year to see if he's really able to pop and put all this stuff together, creating for his teammates, knocking down shots at a high efficiency. And so, yeah, I'm always find myself intrigued whenever I watch AJ Johnson, just because the athleticism and the movement, the fluidity really stands out to me.
Jared McCain, really struggled in Vegas. I felt like,
it
was good. Where were they? Utah or California? Can't remember.
I cannot remember. I can look up real quick.
Yeah, wherever their earlier session was. I thought he was way better there. Just was super inefficient and really struggled to get away from his man in Vegas. Like, showed all the concerning things that people were worried about, but he was asked to mostly play on the ball. In a lot of those circumstances, be a creator. And to me, where I love Jared is, right now he's not really a creator. I think down the road, like, he'll have potential to do that. But where I like him most right now is off the ball, catching and shooting, attacking closeouts, getting out in transition, knocking down threes that way. Just didn't really see him a lot in that kind of environment to me.
Yeah. And that's what, we talk about shot diet, and that can hurt your percentage. They were in Salt Lake for the 3 games before Vegas.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's not a whole lot to talk about with him. Just because he didn't shoot it well, it felt like, and he is a shooter.
Yep.
Baylor Shireman I thought was impressive. I thought that Johnny Furphy was impressive in moments. Like, we should talk Furphy real quick. Shireman, quickly on him, just looked the part of like an NBA wing from day one, played off the ball, wasn't trying to like hunt shots, right? Like, he was just out there playing in the flow of the offense. Furphy, again, like, felt like he was playing within the flow of the offense, athletic, really, really good moments in transition where I know the testing numbers were horrible for Furphy, but he doesn't play like he has bad testing numbers athletically. You know what I mean? Yeah,
sure. No, I agree with you. I think talk about with him getting out in transition, the jumper is really what it comes down with him. He took almost 9 per game. According to this, let me double check, because if they played today, this would be a little different. No, they did not play today. So, his last game was on the 18th, but yeah, almost 9 attempts, but shot 29% on those. So he's going to really have to figure that out, but use that athleticism to be a rebounder, average 6 of those, and just figure out the defense. We talked about it all year. How good can he be defensively? But, for a team that likes to get up and down the floor and play fast, I feel like his type of athleticism fits well with that.
Yep, I agree. Trey Alexander for Denver.
Yeah.
Who's quite good.
Yeah, he had some big games, scored the ball well, watched that, kind of get to his spots. And I had some worries about Trey just with his size and the physicality, but at least for Summer League, he was able to figure that out a little bit.
Yeah, I thought that just the ability to, kind of not run the show all the time, but like occasionally run the show for Denver and defend at the point of attack. And, just kind of looking at the numbers here, I think he shot pretty reasonably well, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, he was better than that. He was over 50% from the field and almost 50% from 3. So shot extremely well.
Yep. That tracks with what my memory was of watching him. The other guy we talked a little bit about previously, because they played in a different summer league, was AJ Mitchell, and AJ Mitchell in Vegas only played 2 games, but averaged 18 points and shot 44% from the field, 50% from 3, had four rebounds, 2.5 assists per game. I thought he was 4 assists and 2.5 rebounds per game. I thought he was really impressive again in Vegas as well.
Yeah, AJ Mitchell will be really interesting. It just that roster and trying to figure out where's the path to minutes eventually, right? None of these guys are going to play. Obviously, Topic isn't playing because of the injury, but AJ is a really nice player to go run your G League team all season long and help those guys be effective and be successful. And then, figure out how he works his way onto the roster, into the rotation moving forward.
I mean, the other guy that, tracks here is Tyler Kolek. Like, Kolek looked like he might be able to play from day one for a really good Knicks team.
I have some notes. I got to pull up my notes because I was giving him he played the Pistons. And so I actually kept like detailed notes. So on point, running these ball screens, reading the defense.
So point, real quick stats, 9.6 points, 3.4 rebounds, 7 assists versus 1.4 turnovers. Was just a ridiculous passer, but continue.
Yeah, I was just say on point, running ball screens, reading the defense, running the show, throwing pinpoint passes. The decisiveness, anticipation, and accuracy are really impressive. Had a ridiculous secondary defender navigation dribble. It was crazy. And then found Dwayne Washington in the corner. I think he's going to struggle at the point of attack defensively. We'll have to rely on great hands, similar to how we talked about with Reed Sheppard. And then he scored some big buckets late in that game after struggling from the field all game long. That's kind of just who you feel like Tyler Kolek is, right? He could miss 10 shots and then he needs a big one. He made some silly one on the baseline where it looked like he was behind the backboard. I don't think he shot particularly well from 3, if I remember right. I'll have to look at the numbers to back that up, but just the way he operated the offense was very impressive. Yeah, 32% from 3 in 5 games.
Yeah, just the comfort level He was so sick and so comfortable with the ball in his hands the whole time. Just was a really, really impressive player to me. He had this one, I was like underneath the basket and Thomas and Mac. He had this one just like slow step decel finish where he just like bumped the guy and then like slowed down and then like went right up with the left. And I was like, oh man, that's tough. Nobody is stopping that and slowing that down at all. I mean, the Raptors guys weren't super impressive to me. They just kind of like looked like they belonged at summer league. Trying to think anybody else here.
I mean,
Missy didn't like totally pop to me.
No,
Suns
same.
guys didn't really pop to me.
I thought Dunn looks the part defensively, not the part offensively. We knew this. Also, the game I watched missed a bunch of his little floaters. He's got to hit those at a high rate to be effective offensively. Showed the vertical explosion and kind of the athleticism there. Did you see much Dadier? I thought he looked like he wasn't ready, which we've talked about.
Fairly invisible when I watched him. Yeah.
Jamal Shed is bigger than I thought he would look.
Jamal had a couple of really, really good defensive moments, I would say, which isn't a surprise. But
a Dimbona,
fine. Yeah, looked like a good defensive like backup eventually. Yeah. The last team that we haven't talked about yet, and I saved them for last particularly, is the Lakers. We do have to do this.
Okay.
I thought that Dalton Connect was really good in Vegas. I thought that his ability to get to his spots as a scorer when he was running within the flow of the offense was really impressive. I think he made like 40% of his threes. I know that he was, as of going into like his last game, he was up over 40% from three. I can look at the number here.
In Vegas specifically, he was 39% on almost 8 attempts.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. 5 rebounds, 2.3 assists as well. I thought he looked great. I thought he looked great as a scorer. He was really impactful defensively. Like, it's going to be a whole process with him. He was really bad on that end.
Yes.
But offensively, in terms of scoring the basketball, I thought Connect like made the shots in the way that you would like to see him get shots within the flow of an offense, and did a great job.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine scoring the basketball. I think he'll pass the ball enough. He's not going to be like a high level passer or anything like that. But yeah, and then the defense is going to be something to figure out.
Bronny James. We're going to have to talk about Bronny now.
Okay.
He closed with those 2 double-figure games. I think he had 11 against
12 and 13. 12 against the Hawks, 13 against the Cavs.
12 on 11 shots against the Hawks, and then 13 against the Cavs.
Yep.
Before that, I think he was shooting 11% from the field and 10% from 3 or something. It was quite bad.
He was 7 of 31 from the field and 0 of 15 from 3 before those final 2 games.
Yeah. Did not really look like he belonged on the court before those 2 games. I'll be honest, I did not really think he played all that well in either of those 2 games. I thought that the thing that really stuck out for me with Bronny is that the defense was not very good at Summer League. You go and you watch the Houston game in Vegas, really just sagged off of Reed all the time and was a big part in Reed getting loose against Houston, when they played Houston. Against the Cavs, did an okay job when matched up with Imani Bates. Imani Bates, most of his shots came against other players. I think people were giving Bronny a lot of credit for Imani going 4 for 19 or whatever. But by and large, a lot of those shots came when Bronny was not guarding him. Had some turnovers that were on same side kickouts that you really don't like to see. I thought he didn't navigate screens well on defense. like against Amani, like he got drilled on a flare screen and like Amani just like flared out and drilled a 3 with 6 minutes left in the first quarter. Got burned by Jaylon Tyson on a rejected screen, and Tyson ended up drawing a foul, I think, on Castleton. Did actually get through a slip screen where Amani was like screening and he had to be like the big quote unquote, and they ended up he navigated it well. Contested a 3 from Amani and then like ball watched and kind of got caught and then gave up like this open 3 because the man from the wing had to help down on a cut from Imani. And then I think it was Pete Nance like shot a cross wing kick out to the man where that guy should have been if Bronny had been like paying attention with Imani. If Bronny is going to be this defensive stopper, he can't be like a negative defender. I thought he was a negative defender at Summer League, to be completely honest. He had moments as a playmaker, which were really good. And he had like these, high ball pressure moments. He had some moments that I thought were positive. I want to say that too. He had a game with like 4 steals or whatever. He had a couple of blocks here and there. Like it wasn't all negative. But I thought that by and large, the overall defensive side of the court really left me wanting more from Bronny, which is disappointing given where, the skill set is supposed to lie. It was not ideal, I think is the way I would put it.
I mean, here's the thing. He is in the NBA now. He's on a standard contract with the Lakers. And so I feel like this, if he's going to be a 3-and-D guard, and we talked about, you have to be really, really good defensively. And so I feel like that's where we kind of have to evaluate him. And that was my kind of first takeaway was he can't be this and be giving up straight line drives and those type of things. And, it's like, oh, well, Dalton Connect's really bad defensively. Yes, that's not why Dalton Connect's in the NBA. It's because he scores the basketball and knocks down shots. If he's not doing that, then that's where it starts to become really, really concerning. So with Bronny, it is the defense and making threes. And he just didn't, the shooting is, I think it's going to take some time. We've talked about it. It wasn't good the last couple of games. Maybe he started to figure it out a little bit. It's really defensively. And we talked about how hard this is at somebody his size to be that impactful with your defense.
Zero margin for error.
Yes. And that's what it's huge because it's not like there's a bunch of versatility, right? We're not saying, oh, well, he can guard 1 through 4 and at least take all of these matchups, even if he's not locked down, or he's going to be some awesome weak side, low man rim protector because of his size and length. And I'm not saying he won't have flashes of that, but it's not going to be some overwhelming value. And so really, evaluating Bronny right now, it's how impactful is he defensively? And I left similar to you where it's like, man, it just wasn't as good as what I was hoping for me, especially on the ball.
The moments where I thought he was positive now, I would say have to do in transition where he was just aggressive and decided I'm going, right? The Cavs gave him like a couple of early offense, like driving lanes basically, right? And he saw them and he just attacked. Covered ground quickly, got downhill, finished at the basket. That's great. Like finished like with a weird, like wrong-footed floater kind of thing. It was a strange shot. That was one of them. And then the other time, like got all the way to the rim, right? When he's just out there playing and like being aggressive and trying to like get downhill, that's where I think he can be impactful. But a lot of that has to come in early offense in transition because he can't separate from anybody. He doesn't have like the shiftiness, the on ball creativity, the like any of that stuff. Like it's just not there, unfortunately. Yeah. Like I don't really feel any differently about Bronny than I did pre-draft. I didn't see him as a draftable player. I'm glad that he's going to get his opportunity to play. I mean, he's signed now for a couple of years and we're going to see how it goes. He's definitely a G League guy. He's definitely a project. He's going to get his opportunities. just because he signed to this deal and he's LeBron's son. And yeah, I think we're all hoping that he becomes something, because it is a genuinely cool story.
Yeah.
That LeBron's son is going to play on LeBron's team. They're probably going to play together at some point in the first week of the season, I would venture, because the G League season doesn't start for, a couple of weeks after the NBA season starts. We shouldn't diminish how awesome that story is, but we should also recognize that he's not there. And I don't really think he's all that close yet, to be honest with you, to the mark in terms of being like a genuine, like helpful NBA player on the court. And we'll just see where it goes.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can see both sides of it. Anybody can see how cool it is that one of the greatest players of all time and his son being on the same team as him. And when they share the court and hopefully they connect on an alley-oop or something like that, I think it'd be even cooler if it was from LeBron to Bronny, as opposed to the other way. But also, like, he made the decision to enter the NBA draft. The Lakers picked him. They gave him a contract. He's on a standard NBA contract. I think it's also part of what we do to evaluate him in that way. And just like we said with Tidjane Salaun, like, Salaun's not ready. We've said it with multiple other guys, or weren't impressed with this or that. This is how we have to evaluate him now based off where he's at in his decisions. And so I think that we're fair in doing so, but I do like that you gave the caveat of it doesn't take away from how cool the story is and how much fun it will be to see a father and son on the court together when that does ultimately happen.
Who were your best rookies at Summer League, all told, now that we've talked through this?
Yeah, I mean, Reed, I think, stood out the most. That's an easy answer. I'll give Jaylon Tyson a shout out because that's my guy from, early on. I have to admit, Kel'el Ware is a guy that really impressed me. Not a guy I was as high on. So I would say those three off the top of my head as I look through the list.
Yeah. I would say my answers are Reed, Clingan,
yeah.
Probably Tristan da Silva, Jaylon Tyson. Man, I really liked Kolek and AJ Mitchell. Like those guys were like really, really good. But I thought Bob was quite good as well. That's another name worth tracking. I thought Bob was like Bob didn't have like almost like as a prospect. I liked what I saw from Bob more than like his overall game in terms of how it looked immediately on the court. But in terms of his decision-making and passing stuff, like I think that's just going to take a minute. Bob would be in the top 10 though, for sure. So I would say Reed, Clingan on defense for sure. Jaylon Tyson, Tristan da Silva. Those were the four that I looked at and I was like, oh no, these guys like really immediately came in and were like quite good from the jump, from day one. And then Bub Furphy was pretty good as well. Castle as well. Like I think Steph Castle deserves like a good amount of credit here, just not in Vegas. So we didn't get a chance to see him. Edey, played that one game. Yeah. Yeah. Like I would say that's a good group to me.
Yep.
To bring up. Do you have anything else you want to talk about here, Bryce?
I don't think so. I keep looking through my list. I think that's about it.
Okay, so the next episode we're going to be doing later this week will be sophomores, and I guess we'll probably include kind of everybody else, like maybe the vets as well. I was kind of wondering, maybe, who else whether or not we do like those other guys later, right? Sure. But maybe we'll do everyone. We'll see. We'll see how long we really want to record for the next episode as well, because this ended up being a bit more of a bear than what I thought it was going to be. Yeah, that's all we've got here. We'll do, like, I see someone asking about Carlo Matkovic. Like, we'll talk about him next episode. He was drafted 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We really wanted to focus on the 2024 draft guys here. Good summer league though. It was fun. It was a good time. I'm glad we went, and I'm excited to talk about more of these guys next episode.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to talk about some of these other guys as well. The Jet Howards, the Jordan Millers, some guys that really will be fun to discuss and see what it means. If it means Julian Strother, we mentioned earlier, multiple names. We'll have plenty of guys to talk about. Yeah, I'm kind of sad. We're kind of done with basketball. We get the championship game tomorrow. I know we have Team USA and all of that, the Olympics, which I think the exciting thing about the Olympics is there's so many NBA guys on other teams. Even watch that South Sudan game the other day. It's like, oh, there's Malawak and there's JT Thor and, different guys. And so as we go it's not just watching Team USA at the Olympics. We get to watch Team Canada with multiple NBA players and all, we get to watch the Joker play still. So we get real basketball, but just thinking now that we have this long to go before the NBA season.
I can't get into Olympics yet. I don't know.
I know
why.
you're like, every time I even bring it up at all, you're like, ugh. You're the Grinch.
Yeah. I'm just like, I don't know what it is.
Is it just basketball or is the Olympics over? Because I love the Summer Olympics. I love watching track and field for the Summer Olympics. It's so much fun. We watch the pre-trials or whatever, the Olympic trials.
You guys are savages.
Yeah. And I don't even like track. Like it's not like I'm a track guy. I just think it's cool. It's impressive.
Yeah. Like my brother was here like 2 weeks ago or whatever. And he was like able to like name like people who are going to be like in the track and field stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like this is insane. He was like able to name like times and like heights for pole vaulters. I was like, oh my God, like what
I can't do it. It's a lot of, even the long distance stuff is interesting for me to watch and I enjoy. Other than the steeplechase, I think that's the craziest event ever invented. Who decided just to throw a little body of water during the middle of a race? I don't understand, but yeah. I'm excited for the Olympics.
It's a good time. Okay. We'll be back. We'll be back probably Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. We'll let you guys know.
Yep.
That's all we've got though. Until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.